features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Juma in the Sabi Sand, South Africa. My name's Steve. I'm joined on camera by Fergus. Sorry for that rocky start. We've got a herd of elephants that's just moving through the thickets here, and we're going to see if we can catch up with them. Welcome. It is a very nice 27 degrees Celsius, 88 degrees Fahrenheit. These elephants, we think, are moving straight towards a watering hole to go and do some wallowing. Let's see if we can catch up with them. Remember to send through your questions, hashtag Safari Live, follow us on the YouTube stream. We're going to see if we can catch up with them. Let us know what you'd like to talk about this afternoon. Beautifully past the car at the 1 minute mark. And obviously they moved as we wanted to get them in shot. And there's a very cute little baby with them. Now they've stopped. Now they've all stopped. We're just going to come around and get them all coming out of the thickets. My objective for the afternoon was to see if we could pick up on some ellies. When it's warm like this, it's always fun to spend time with these beautiful animals. Here's one youngster looking so fearless in the road. Hello. Hello, you. And then there's another one coming, a mother with a really little youngster, probably about 1.5 years now. Very close behind mum, and she's flapping her ears to show how hot she is. Normally the youngsters have their ears stuck to the side of their body as they warm up really quickly, and they also cool down really fast. Here's the rest of the front of us. Very special to be able to spend time with elephants. Definitely my favorite animal to view from the vehicle, and on foot in fact. And they're heading directly south, so we're thinking they might be headed, because of the mission that they're on, they're heading in a straight line. They're not stopping, they're not feeding, they're just moving. The objective is to probably go and drink, but Twin Dams is this way, and it's not the nicest looking water, so we're going to move on ahead. They've come from, we think, from Voyatela. Maybe they've been drinking there, and now they're going to go and mud wallow. James, drinking ellies would be fantastic. How would mud wallowing ellies be? They've come straight to Chelapan, anticipating, yes, they anticipated some mud here, and they've now done a complete little turn. This female with her youngster T-boned Chelapan, and now they're turning right. The road they're going to go on to the right here is the pangolin track, where there's always been lots of mud wallows, and maybe this youngster, she's not the oldest female in the front there, maybe she's not quite sure, but there's another female, biggest female, 2 to the left. She's not turning, she's going in a straight line. She knows where the water's at. She's going to go straight past Chelapan to Twin Dams. That other young female there probably is remembered from the past that going to the right where she was going is a good place for mud wallows. We're not quite there just yet. And the older girl knows, well, young lady, it's only August. We need to go to the bigger watering holes. We can't find those mud wallows only after lots of rain. Very, very cool to see. So we're going to move around and maybe get in front of them. Cindy, you want to know when elephants are considered adults? Well, female elephants can start mating from the age of 9. Whether that makes an animal an adult is hard to say. It's quite a loose term, adult, sub-adult, but males are sort of pushed out of the herd at 16 because they start showing interest in their sisters and their mothers and their aunties, and that's just not kosher, so they get pushed out. But a male wouldn't really be mating until he's in his late 20s, early 30s. So different ages for male and female, but what you call an adult really. Breeding ready. Young elephant bull would be able to breed, but in elephant society it's not really acceptable. I'm just going to move to the side here. Get them walking right past us. They are absolutely beautiful. Okay, well, we're going to stay with this herd. They're following the Umawati drainage system all the way to Twin Dams. Hopefully they're going to go and have a mud wallow. But in the meantime, let's go up to the Maasai Mara with Jamie and some zebra.
That is something that I really miss being in the Mara, is watching elephants mud wallow. They don't seem to do it nearly as often here as they do in us. For those of you for whom that sentence is confusing, my name is Jamie, and this afternoon James is on camera with me this afternoon. I've said that twice. And we are actually here in Kenya in the Maasai Mara. Hence why I'm talking about missing bathing in South Africa. I think it's because on average the temperatures are just a little bit cooler here in the Maasai Mara, which means a lot of the animals are A, reticent to go and mud wallow, and B, a lot fluffier. The same for the zebra of the Maasai Mara, which are essentially the same, just a different subspecies to the one that you will see in South Africa. The big difference, of course, if you're watching, and if you've been watching for a long time, you will know this, the absence of their shadow stripes in between the dark stripes on the bottom. They were a lot closer than this, a little bit earlier, but I have to tell you that now that episode 5 of the Gauntlet series is nearly upon us, I have run out of excuses to spend absolutely all the North Clan, or the hyenas of the North Clan, which means that we'll actually be doing a proper safari this afternoon. That does not mean that I'm not going to take you to go and see if Waffles is with her cub this morning. The matriarch with the brand new cubs can promise you that that is still on the cards. But we will more normal contributions to the live safaris as we go along. We won't abandon them completely, and in fact, if I have to tell you the truth, we're very close to their den. But we will spend time with other animals as well. And of course, here in Kenya, the migration has well and truly, arrived. It hasn't really. It's very late and very, very low numbers to the average year. Now, always the zebra arrive first. They come mostly before the wildebeest, and then the big come through. And it's only recently that we've started to see the big crossings. Whereas last year, in almost this exact spot, I was caught in a massive out-of-control stampede of over 100,000 wildebeest. So it really is very late. Where's that pregnant zebra? The pregnant one, just because she is enormous. I mean, all zebras are quite rotund. But I absolutely cannot find her. Doesn't matter, though, because the elephants have found Steve.
Yes, well, we are still with them, and they've come to another little muddy wallow that normally is quite prominent right next to us here, and the younger ones have walked up to it and are blowing their nostrils as they get disappointed at the fact that there's no mud in it. These are all the young leading the herd. The big matriarch is slowly making away. She knows exactly how far away the water is, so she's pacing herself. But it's so interesting how the younger ones have got a memory of there being mud here. I actually had a number of encounters in this exact mud wallow with buffalo in the summertime. It was a very, up until at least May, it was a very busy place to be. But I'm quite certain that this herd is going to go straight towards Twin Dams at the moment, and they're probably going to wallow, because that's exactly what they've been going for. Hello, Mama. Okay. It's okay. It's okay, Mama. Hello. You're very beautiful. See, she comes as close to us as she wants to. We've given him all the space that she needs. You can see the hole for her underneath the shade. Goes to show you that they want to wallow. Their ears are flapping. It's the hottest day of the year for them, it seems, or of the season. They're all flapping away, standing in the quarry shade, waiting for the oldest to come. And now, one by one, they're going to peel off. And I think we're going to be quite lucky if we wait at Twin Dams. We're going to get a really marvelous show. It is a smush of Ellies, Emma. It is indeed. And I just found that so funny. As each of those individuals walked up to this mud wallow, they all kind of blew out out their trunk with a huge, disappointing sort of as a child would do when they don't get what they want. Okay, well, we're going to keep up with them. Let's keep going around. I absolutely love predicting a trail that elephants are going to go on and then getting ourselves in position and getting them to walk right past us. It's always very, very special. Just try and get in front of them now. Okay, well, it's in Juma in the southern hemisphere in South Africa. James Hendry is out as well, and he is busy bumbling about.
Yes, I am bumbling aimlessly about in the blinding heat. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this end of the sun. My name is James Hendry. Strap in. There we are, well done. And on camera is Sébastien Rombi, the greatest French Gabonese Air Force pilot of all time. We are on the hunt down the western boundary to see if we can't find where Tingana, the Duke of Juma, went yesterday, a 12-year-old male leopard that has seemingly expanded his range once more. Now, for those of you who are new viewers, Tingana once roamed a very vast distance. He used to go all the way to the reserve to the west of us, that is Arathusa, onto their boundary, and he'd come kind of halfway through Juma, so he had a domain of about 1,500 hectares or so. Then it started to shrink a bit with the influx of other male leopards of a disease about which we know very little, except that he was very sick and confined to one little spot of his old domain, and that was Chitwadam, where Steve will probably go later today. Now, he then got better, started to re-establish himself, and has sorted out on Juma, certainly further to the east of where he used to be, but that's because there's no male leopard pressure off to his eastern side, and there is from the west, from Hukumuri, who of course many of you have met, a 6-year-old virile young fellow who has struck fear into the male leopards far and wide, and caused a quivering in the knees in the female leopards around here. Anyway, yesterday, Tingana, for the very first time in about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 months, came further west of the Juma kind of westerly most point that he was prepared to go until yesterday. He came all the way out here. We're near the western boundary of Juma now, and so he's pushing further into what was his old domain and into what has become the domain of Hukumuri. Interesting indeed. He's obviously feeling good. Also, Hukumuri has had his work cut out for him, mating with 2 different female leopards west of where we are. And of course, as we know, leopards can mate sometimes sort of 4 times every 10 minutes, and so he must be, I would imagine. His lack of attention to this part of his territory has meant that, well, Tingana has managed to expand a little bit further, and what's really interesting to me about all of that, final point on the matter, is that it means that he's expanding to Shidulu's, over Shidulu's territory. Shidulu, of course, a female leopard, 4 years old, who has been mating with Hukumuri, but it does mean that if she doesn't fall pregnant, she could easily come into estrus and seek out Tingana, which would be very interesting indeed. Now we have our first heartbeats of the day, or the afternoon. Hello, fellows. Seen anything that we'd like to see? Cats, I'm thinking. 2 impala rams lurking about the place. Please remember to talk to us using the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. Otherwise, you can use the chat stream on YouTube. Not sure if anyone's told you this, but it's about 31 degrees Celsius out here, 88 degrees. It's a bit warmer than the Maasai Mara. Now this impala is doing what we saw some impalas doing this morning. He's eating fallen leaves. Right, I believe we're having I have no idea what that means, but it does mean that we are going to have a black screen with that picture of the Safari Live logo for a little while. It's otherwise known as the tech loop, and we will see you as soon as we've sorted the problem out, don't go anywhere. There he's gone. Oh, we just found a little steenbok, which is now not played like a steen, it's run off. Anyway, sorry about that. I hope that the stream is fixed now, that you will be able to see us uninterrupted without glitches for the next, well, almost 3 hours. We are traversing still the western boundary of Juma, hoping to find something to do with leopard. We're also going to go towards the Nkahuma Pride, which was found not far from here this morning. But they will not be particularly... Oh, Eloise, I wish I knew. The buffalo are gone. They have not been back to Juma for some time, except for a brief incursion from a small herd that seems to be wandering around to the north of us and to the east of us. And it came and had a drink at one of our waterholes in the northeast corner of Juma, and then it disappeared again. And that is why it would seem that the Nkahuma Pride has set to eating zebra largely, other than the old impala, which I'm sure they snaffle and devour without anyone really noticing. So the buffalo have not recovered in this particular area since the big drought that we had in the summer of 2016-17, I think that's when it was. If I remember correctly, it was a really bad drought. And many of the buffalo died, and many were in a dreadful state. Right, let's go back to the Maasai Mara, where Jamie is sitting with something that is not in a terrible state, but eating the verdance of the Mara Plains.
Now, this is an animal that I have really missed sharing with all of you. So we spoke earlier about the fact that they don't mud wallow as often as they do in South Africa. I see now that this herd is wandering straight into what here in Kenya is termed a lugger, but is essentially the same as the Muluwati drainage system that Steve was talking about. It's basically a dried up river, I don't know if you'd really call it a river system, a creek or a stream, where that provides the passage of water along it. So they're heading down into the lugger, small herd, and it's nice at this time of year. The one, I suppose, compensation for the fact that the main body of the migration hasn't arrived in the triangle yet, or at least not this part of the triangle, is that the elephants are still around. I really don't enjoy the whole Great Migration thing. I think the noise of it, the constant gnawing of gnu's, and it really is a meh, 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 constantly. And the constant movement, the sound of animals walking through the grass, all of those sorts of things, I think just really irritate them. They animals with very sensitive hearing, very sensitive senses of smell, so the whole thing just frustrates them. Girl, there's a big body of water, and I know this particular river system backwards because I've spent so much time following the hyenas through this. This is proper North Clan territory. So there's a big body of water just up ahead of me that you wouldn't know to look at the terrain, but sort of straight in front a little bit, if we go a little bit to the right, where the big female is, the matriarch with the long tusks. There, she's hiding behind that termite mound, just there. There's a big section of water. So hopefully they'll prove me wrong, and they'll go and just have a little bit of a mud bath. Wait, that's not the... Where did the big female go? That's not the one I was thinking of at all, but I thought that was her. But somewhere around there, there's some nice water. So elephants is sort of essentially, if we're doing a comparison between the animals of Juma and the animals of the Maasai Mara, the elephants are essentially the same. One thing that we have noticed, though, is that the tusks of the females are much, much longer. It's been so long since I've been back to South Africa, though, that perhaps I'm mistaken about that. There she is. That's the big female I was thinking of. I drove past them a little bit earlier before the start of the sunset safari, and the one youngster did such a dramatic flop down on a termite mound, clearly thoroughly unimpressed that his herd was making him walk all this way. Don't forget, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter is how you can get hold of us, which is exactly what Kai has done. Kai wants to know what the average life expectancy is of an African elephant. We're looking at, for the bulls, probably around about 50 to 55, possibly even longer. For the cows, they can live potentially up to 70, sometimes even 75 years, although that would be a very, very old female elephant. So for males about 50, for females about 60, and of course it's dependent upon the area that they're in. But the nice thing about elephants is that they have quite a high survival rate, and a low mortality rate. Even for calves, there's very few things that will actually risk the wrath of the entire family coming to protect an elephant calf. Lions do it, hyenas have been known to do it, but that protective power of the entire elephant herd is enough of an intimidation factor to keep most animals away. So as a result, elephant calves have a very, very low mortality rate. Elephants are slow reproducers. So a female might have a calf every 3 to 5 years. She suckles that calf for a long time. She's pregnant for 2 years. So they really invest everything that they have in their little ones. Now, interestingly enough, since the massive rains of the last few months, it's now starting to go brown here in the Mara, and the exact opposite is happening across in Juma.
Well, it's certainly not getting green out here, but it most certainly does seem to be springing with spring. There is the first sign of the coming growth season. The knobthorn tree has produced itself a little flower. Isn't that nice? It's not much on the tree, must be said. The tree is hardly awash with blossoms, but it has produced its first flower, and you can see buds all around it that are all going to be flowers fairly soon. And it's a lovely smelling flower. It's a very gentle, subtle smell, a little bit like fruited honey, I suppose, but very subtle. So only when they're all in flower can you drive past a tree and get a sense of the smell. A most pleasant fragrance, and in fact if I could climb up a knobthorn tree, I'd be seriously tempted to climb up that very knobthorn tree and pull out a flower and rest it beneath my nostrils as we drove. That would look ridiculous, so I wouldn't really do that. Isn't that nice? It's always so exciting when the coming of the growth season comes, the change of the seasons. Lisa, that is like asking me whether I am able to predict the lottery numbers, basically. I don't know what is going to happen with rain, whether or not we're going to have a good season, whether it'll be sufficient or not. I really couldn't tell you. But I will say that I think the bush currently is in a good state because we had a good rainy season last year. Although the grass looks very dry, and to the human eye it must look like it's impossible for any grazer or browser to live in these sorts of conditions, but that's really not the case. Because we had good rains last year, there is quite a lot of standing grass. Yes, of course, it's not particularly nutritious at the moment, but the animals have adapted to that. If it does rain, and rain properly, I don't expect us to get proper rain before November sometime. There may be the odd 20 millimetre or 1 inch shower between then and now, but it's unlikely we'll get the bulk of the rain before November, December, January. And, if I was going to hazard a guess in the same way that I might hazard a guess at a lottery number, then I'd say we probably will have a fairly good rain year, because the droughts don't tend to come very close after each other. They tend to come sort of 5 or 7 years after each other. So I think we probably will have a fairly good year, which is good, and hopefully it'll attract a few more buffalo back here. Right, well, that was our first sign of spring. The lions were not too far from here earlier this morning, so we'll pop down there and see if we can find them. Not sure exactly where they are. Somewhere in the deep shade of those bushes are 11 lions, almost certainly fast asleep. There is a bit of greenery around, and it'll certainly look greener as the sun goes down. It's quite a harsh kind of light at the moment, which makes it even browner than it might seem otherwise. Marissa, I have not heard any updates on the Birmingham boys now for some time. They are living down south, obviously enjoying themselves, or they'd have come back here. Quite interestingly though, when we found the Nkuhuma Pride, here's a little branch indicating where the lions have gone. When we found the Nkuhuma Pride yesterday morning at about 4:30, they were running, and they were running every time one of the evoker boys, who Tristan subsequently found, started to call, which means that they are not entirely comfortable with the evokers being the new lords of the manor, as it were. But there are 2 of them, Amber Eyes and the youngest female, who have been seeking out, we think, the evoker boys. They separated themselves from the Nkuhumas for a little while. They're back with them now. But they separated themselves from the Nkuhumas for a little while, and I think it's because they don't have cubs, and I think that they are looking to mate again with the new lords of the manor so that they can solidify a bond and have new cubs with the new masters, if you like. Right, well, there's certainly some tracks going through here, so I think we'll just keep going. All right, but while we look here, I think much more entertaining than watching me drive is Stivovo and his elephants.
Yes, well, we were following those ellies for a little while. We anticipated them going to Twin Dams. We moved ahead of them. We heard some alarm calls in the drainage line. We followed up on them, didn't find anything. Went back to Twin Dams. Elephants gave us a slip. Oh, it is the same ones. Here comes the young one. And then they gave us a slip completely, and they managed to sneak past the dam, and they are now feeding south of Gowrie Main, our southern boundary road, and there's a good chance the direction that they're going is they're going to be heading to Chitwa in a moment or two. So they completely ignored Twin Dams because it is not a very tasty watering hole, and they feel like they need a little bit of a snack along the way. I found some nice grass underneath these trees here in a little bit of shade. Just a quick snack, a little bit more energy just to help them down the hill, or over the hill, as it were. And I'm no doubt in the next 10 to 15 minutes they'll move off towards Chitwa. Minamu, yes indeed, elephants are believed to be left or right tusked, and when you find them individually, you might find one with more of a... Often they break one of them, and but sometimes you can see one is shorter than the other. There you can see that right one's a bit shorter. Sometimes it's very obvious, and you often see it. It takes a while to notice it, because obviously it takes time to wear down the ivory, to sort of wear it down and to file it down, and not very easy to do. But quite often what you do notice is it actually breaks off from use, and that invariably gives you the idea. And once that's broken off, well, just like someone who loses the ability to use a certain hand, they have to switch to the other one, but they're very adept at doing it. They're able to train 100,000 muscles in their trunk, and they're able to switch from one tusk to the other. But you'll often find the tusks very, very stained, very dirty, which means that they do use both. And when you compare these elephants to the Maasai Mara elephants, you notice the Maasai Mara elephants, the tusks are beautifully white. These guys get full of stains, full of gum, full of juice from the trees. The Mara elephants feed mainly on grass, so their tusks stay very, very clean. And beautiful. Nice to spend time with these guys. And as I said, they're probably heading to the watering hole, and I have a very strong feeling there's going to be more than one pride. Oh, one more than one herd down by the water. So we're going to move off because we are on the main road here, and there are a few trucks moving up behind us. So let's head on towards Chitwa watering hole before it gets a little bit busy on this side. And in the meantime, we're going to be heading all the way back up to the Maasai Mara. Jamie, she's found also some elephant.
So while Steve heads on off to Chitwa, we were talking about the life expectancy of elephants and this beautiful oldish female. Oh, we're going to have someone go straight through the shot. Hi. There we go. Hi, Season. What are we talking about? Ah, yes, ages of elephants. So that beautiful old female over there, you can't gauge the age of an elephant by the size of their tusks. Most of you know that by now. But if you have a look at her temporal region, you have a look at how prominent the bones are around her face, it's almost as though her skin has been stretched tight over the bones. And she does look, all elephants are wrinkly, she just looks a little saggier than the others. And that's due to age. So that's one of the ways that you can look at the age of an elephant. However, they don't go through menopause or anything like that. So that is probably her youngster over there. Over a year old now. And that is her little one. It's the same one that dramatically flopped down onto the termite mound. We'll go catch up with them quickly. They've now gone behind us ever so slightly. Got to do the Mara vehicle dance, which is, as soon as I start the engine, I have to remember to turn my radio up so that I can hear all of your wonderful questions and comments, and then remember to turn it down again afterwards. Otherwise, it blasts through. Carla, you want to know why I suspect that elephant tusks are longer in the Mara, particularly of the females, less so with the males? I suspect the reason behind that is a combination of just simple genetics. Just so happened that the elephants... What are we doing? Are we going backwards or... Oh, he's saying I can go. I suspect that it's a combination between genetics, Asante Sana, and Shami's letting me go past, and diet. Oh, sorry, apparently we were also asking about trunk lengths. I don't think that elephants have longer trunks in the Mara. Do they? Not that I'm aware of, anyway. I don't think they have longer trunks. I think the trunk length is much the same with their accordion-like ability. There you go. Hello, beautifuls. Oh, I don't think, did I say trunk earlier? because that would have been me misspeaking. Because as far as I know, no. Trunks are pretty much the same size. I don't know if anyone's actively studied the average length of trunks in East Africa versus Southern Africa. I was thinking more along the lines of tusks, because elephants in the Maasai Mara eat more grass. They don't use their tusks as often for scraping away at bark or digging out tubers or anything like that. There is greater resource availability when it comes to highly nutritious grasses, and it's just a higher rainfall area. But now you've got me wondering. I don't know that you could really gain much insight into measuring trunk lengths. Tusk lengths, yes. Trunk lengths, no. Trunk is a trunk is a trunk. I think you would be hard-pressed to find an explanation for longer trunks. Unfortunately, the sad thing is that both here in the Mara and in South Africa, they do get snared. Proud cut, Mama. In terms of elephant tusk weight, obviously this one doesn't have his little tusks yet, or at least they haven't grown through, but Proud Cat Mama's wondering about how much tusks weigh. That female over there, her tusks would probably be around about, each one would probably be around about, not much more than a kilogram, maybe 2, so just over 4 pounds. Tusks can, however, reach over 50 kilograms, over 100 pounds, and in some record-breaking situations, weigh well over 70 kilograms, or well over 140 pounds per tusk. So imagine that. Imagine some of those big males, like for example the Magnificent Seven that were in the Kruger. They have tusks that combined, they're carrying a weight of 140 kilograms, 150 kilograms, possibly even more. I think one of the tusks weighed over 80. That's over 300 pounds on the end of their faces. That's insane. I've never seen an elephant with tusks that big. I would love to. Unfortunately, we owe our species great thanks for largely removing the genetics of the large tusked elephants through trophy hunting. Uncontrolled as well. %4 of elephants born without tusks at all. Okay, I think I'm going to let our elephants wander off. We're going to, I suppose, go down to the river, see what's happening there. Let's go and see if the lions are snoozing off the heat of the day.
Well, they certainly are. We did find the Nkuhuma Pride, as Sebastian described them, a great mattress of lions, lying there in the shade. Now, the most noticeable thing about this pride of lions is the one that appears to have no sense of smell. She just moved now, yes. She has had her nose in what can only be described as a very dangerous firing line. She's now moved, and the one of whom I accused of being the firing line has now sat up. Now, everybody, for those of you who don't know, this is high action for a lion sighting at this time of the day. The fact that we have a head up at all is quite something. There's even a foot up there. That's fantastic. All 11 members of the Nkuhuma Pride seem to be here. And I know that you all must be sitting on the edges of your seats, your hearts pounding, adrenaline coursing through your bodies at the immense amount of activity taking place here. But I ask you to take a few deep breaths and remain calm as we stare into the, well, shall we say, exhausted eyes of a lioness. Now, we're not going to stay here for long. We will come back here maybe a bit later, but I'm afraid I find it quite difficult to narrate a sighting like this on account of the fact that once you've said, here are the lions and they're asleep, there's not a great deal more to say, really. Not a great deal of interpretation. So if you have any questions about them, then please send them through. Lindsay, I haven't seen it before. And I suspect not, but it's not impossible. That's a really hedging your bets answer, isn't it, Lindsay? I don't think the females fight over males. I think that there are normally sufficient males to go around. So they may well both be mating at the same time, but it'll normally be with different males. I have seen male leopards mating with true female leopards at the same time. I haven't seen a male lion mating with two females at the same time. So I don't think they'd have a conflict, but it's not impossible. So like I was saying, I'll sit here for about 20 minutes or so, and if we'd like to discuss the dynamics of the pride at all, then that's great, we can do that. And then I shall move off and see what else we can find. Karen, the pride doesn't decide so much that the male must leave. In fact, he'd be allowed to stay in the pride, much as has happened with the sausage tree pride up in the Maasai Mara, where two young males born into the pride are still living in the pride, and in fact they're now mating with members of the pride, which means they're mating with their kith and kin, which in lions is not a train smash. It's not going to result in 6-clawed lions or double-tailed lions. In the cats it seems to be right for about 3 or 4 generations, I believe. But they will be kicked out by the dominant males. So the young male in this pride, who's now 2 years old, will be tossed out by the evoker boys as soon as they become aware of him trying to mate, or in fact possibly even now. They may, if they came across the pride and the pride wasn't staying away from the evokers, it's entirely possible that the evokers would try and kick him out now, that they'd chase him until he left. And that might be one of the reasons that they are running from the evokers. They find themselves stuck in a sort of invidious position, do the Nkuhuma pride, because there are youngsters here that are not quite adults yet. There are sub-adults here that could be in danger potentially from the evoker males, because the females won't be coming into estrus just yet. Some of them probably got another 6 months or so, 4 to 6 months before they'll come into estrus. And so there is potential danger from the evoker boys, and I think that's one of the reasons they're staying away from the new males. The other, I think, is the fact that there is a young male with them. And certainly when they had Junior, when I arrived here 3 and a bit years ago, Junior was the male lion of the Nkuhuma. He was a little bit older than the 2-year-old here now. I think he was probably 3 then, maybe 3.5. And he disappeared very quickly after the Birmingham boys started shouting the odds around this place. Fantastic claws there, or foot shot. All right, I'm going to sit here for another 20 minutes or so. While we do that, let's go back across to Vovo, who has managed to find himself a hippo.
Thank you, James. We do have a hippo, lots of hippos here at Chitwa watering hole, and this female here is got enormous amounts of scars and wounds on her back. She's probably an old girl who's been around the block a long time, but look at all of those wounds. A lot of it can be from other hippos, I suppose, but I suppose a lot of it's also from potentially lion attacks, or very hard to say. But she's out the water with her face on the ground, not looking very happy. I think it's a female. The way you identify hippos, the best way is to have a look at the ring around the eye, which is generally quite pink in females. You can think of them wearing mascara. And the males also, you can kind of see a bit of a penis sheath between the legs, between the back legs, where all I kind of see with her is a mammary gland. But then I have been deceived before with a male who's got quite pink eye. So by the wounds on the back, you would assume that this was a male who's been in many confrontations over its life. But a lot of the wounds they heal themselves, as hippos exude a very natural sort of protection, natural sun cream, which is also an anesthetic, or antiseptic should I say, for the wounds on their back. And interestingly enough, this individual with all of those scars does not have a single oxpecker on the back, which we often see oxpeckers all over the hippos keeping their wounds open. So, as I said, we are true to a watering hole. We're spending some time here hoping those elephants we saw, and maybe other elephants, will make their way down. There, the oxpeckers on the other hippos' backs. Nice windy afternoon. Nice and warm. Good time to be spending around the water points in anticipation for animals to come down. Ashley, I think it's just sleepy. It's standing there. It's almost as if it's not being allowed in the water. The way that it's standing, it's kind of like, okay, I'll just stand here and not go in. But it's hard to say, really. I haven't seen what's been going on in the last 45 minutes or so. But there are lots of hippos in and around at the moment that are all lying down outside the water, and this is the only one that is actually standing. And from my experience with hippos out the water standing, it's generally a male who's not being welcomed in the water. So he's allowed to stand on the bank, but as soon as he goes into the water, he's sort of moving into a territory. So because of the behavior, because of the wounds, I'm going to assume it's a male, but so much more tells me that it's a female. So it's very confusing. It's definitely alive, you can see that. Sorry, Emma, I didn't get the whole question there. Robert, I don't think so. I don't think that'd be from mating. It's generally from teeth or tusks from fighting from other hippos, and they get quite boisterous in the water. And then some of it can also be from lion attacks as they meander through the wilderness and lion prides decide to maybe try and tackle a hippo. Very difficult to tackle a hippo. But when a hippo runs away from another one, they can often inflict lots of wounds on their back. So I'm thinking that is the case. It's happened here. But there's a couple of youngsters in amongst the chitwa pod that we see sometimes that are covered in scars, and that is, I'm pretty sure, from lions. I think Taylor was here a month or two ago and heard about the Unkuhuma pride trying to take a young hippo. That must have been incredible to see. Not an easy feat, quite a scary thing to be involved with. Friends of mine who were kind of doing a National Geographic movie years ago at Singita, they were on a vehicle very similar to what we have now, very similar to how myself and Ferg are set up. They were watching a pride of lions, and the pride hunted a hippo. 20 of them, 20 odd lions, jumped on the back of the hippo, and after the hippo dispatched one of the lions, it ran T-boned into the car. The car, well, I saw the raw footage of it. Must have been a frightening thing to experience. They lost half their lunch boxes, they lost things over the side. The car nearly rolled. It didn't though, very luckily, because there were 20 odd hungry lions around, and I remember seeing the guys in the morning. They were not very happy with life. You've heard that story before, Ferg? Yeah. Ferg worked with those guys, I remember. I remember seeing them in the morning. The one guy was actually a friend of mine who'd started working there, Anton. And he looked very sheepish when I saw him, and you can imagine what had gone through his mind the hours afterwards. First of all, a vehicle would have rolled on top of you, and second of all, lions around. Not something to be to be wishing on anybody, that's for sure. Well, this hippo is not looking very interested in much, and as we've seen with hippo behavior, sometimes they can wait for a little while before displaying whatever it is that they're doing. So maybe we'll see him fighting shortly. Sorry, Emma, my comms are breaking up there. Okay, so everyone's agreeing that it is a boy. There we go. It looks like his penis sheath is showing now. Before I didn't see that. So definitely a boy. It's interesting though how behavior can also determine lots. So this individual has probably been beaten many times. I know for a fact it's not Scuba Steve, because Scuba Steve doesn't have many scars on his back. But I'm thinking it's a boy who's being shunted out of the water, and he's just looking very sorry for himself. We haven't gone any closer. We didn't want to chase him into the water, but it's possible that there's a male waiting down here below that's watching him this entire time, waiting for him to make a move. Okay, well, Tristan is bated breath is going to show you some impala at the nest cam.
Well, I am at the nest, Steve, and it's a good afternoon to be at the nest because it's a warm day, and so we should see a steady stream of animals that come down through the course of the afternoon, like these impalas that have all made their way to come and quench their thirst. It's a very warm day. There's a bit of a wind that's blowing, but other than that, it's the perfect conditions for lots and lots of animals to come down and drink. And you can see mostly male impalas are drinking at the moment. The females are around. They'll slowly slot in as well, and we should get quite a few of them all drinking. Now, they'll be quite happy because Hyena has not been around for the last few days, and so it's allowed a fair amount of space for them to drink and to actually get the water that they need. Now, I'm pretty sure Hyena is probably not too far. I wonder where he actually went last night and if he maybe managed to get himself a meal. It would be interesting to know because he kind of was at the pan at around midnight and then went over the dam wall and hasn't been found today yet, which is quite strange. It's been a while since we haven't seen him in a day, and so I wonder if he'll make an appearance again later in the evening. I hope that he managed to avoid the lions and didn't have any issues with that, and that everything is okay. But you can see the females now drinking, that the males have moved. It's quite common to see that the males drink first. They often can be a little bit more boisterous around the waterhole, and slowly but surely the females are coming in. And isn't it such a cool view? I know we've seen it for quite some time now with the different animals drinking, but I always like it. I think it's a very cool view, particularly in the late afternoon. You get this incredible sunset that comes down over the back of the pan, and you get the animals kind of drinking with the sun in the background. It's a very pretty scene, a nice low angle, that's for sure. Dr. Rob, you say you love what we get on the nest cam. It is a very unique view, so it's very nice, and like I say, it just adds a different element to our entire broadcast. We have, the vehicles going around, and it's just a completely different way of looking at things. It's a nice low angle to the animals, and it completely doesn't disrupt them in their day, so they are able to move around. We don't disturb them in any way by being there. The cameras are not moving, so they're not making any noise, making them jittery around water. It just allows them to do exactly what they would do if there was nothing there, which is pretty cool. So it's a nice thing to be able to see, and definitely very, very nice to have all of them coming down to drink. And it's a perfect time of year for this, because come summer it would be a little more tricky. Not as many animals will come down, but now in the winter, with the lack of water around, it's the perfect place to watch lots and lots of animals coming down to drink. And we've had quite a few things on the nest cam already. We've had pretty much everything arrive down at this pad. I'm just waiting for a big herd of buffalo. I think a big herd of buffalo might be quite fun, particularly if they wallow around and kind of drink. It would be quite nice to have them around. I think that's the only one we haven't really seen too much of, but we'll have to see, and maybe we'll actually get one animal that will come down that we actually haven't had too much of either, is what James is busy sitting with, and them and the buffalo on the nest cam would be quite something.
I suspect we probably have had the lions at the nest cam. It's just that we've been asleep when they've been there. We probably had them at the nest cam yesterday evening, just before Tristan arrived there this morning to have a look at them. Well, as you can see, huge amount of activity since we were last here. This will be our final segment with the flat cat and kahumas. We'll be leaving after this to go in search of something more active. There are pieces of grass moving with greater enthusiasm than the Nkahuma Pride is at the moment, and we may find one of those. Oh, look, there's one cleaning itself. Fantastic, very exciting. And yawn, yes. Oh, how exhausting. And didn't even finish its yawn before it passed out. It actually banged its head on the floor. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask for that question again, just to make sure that I heard it correctly. Tazos. Tazos, you're wondering if a lion is different if the rest of the pride makes fun of that lion. In other words, like my classmates used to make fun of me, for example, for being short, something like that. Well, no, I don't think so. I've yet to see any examples of bullying for differences. But what I will tell you is the following, Tazos, that they are not very nice to each other when it comes to looking after those that are injured or sick. And so if there's a lion that is injured or sick, almost always they will leave that one behind. And whatever it is, whatever the problem is, if it's limping or if it's feeling ill or if it's coughing, it's got TB or something like that, if it can keep up with the pride to the extent that it can feed off some of the carcasses that they kill, well, then yes, it may survive. But if it is so sick that it cannot keep up with the pride and scavenge from other predators, then it will die. But no, they don't make fun of other lions that have differences. I suppose if a lion was born with 3 ears, then, well, I mean, it's possible that there could be some sort of exclusion on the basis of looks, but I'm not sure. Ooh, Taylor's got something very exciting about to happen in the Maasai Mara. Let's head across there now.
No, we don't have a crossing. That's not what's happening as we speak. We're just looking at some wildebeest in the distance. We're very far away from the Mara River. My name is Taylor McCurdy. On camera with me today is Archie. And it's very exciting to be out here. I'm so sorry, James sounded like he linked over to me in a hurry. There's the Mara River. Let me just point it out to you and then we'll reposition. And there we go. So there's the Mara River. I don't know where the wildebeest are going. It's a bit too early to say anything just yet, but definitely not a crossing. But yeah, so what we did try and do for all of you, however, is we went down towards a crossing called the BBC, which is a photographer's dream. It's got fairly sort of steep, narrow ruts, and really, well, I suppose it's so dry at the moment. There's so much dust, so it's quite pretty. So we went down there. There were, I don't know, maybe 5,000 wildebeest all gathered up on the edge, but sadly we couldn't even find a little bit of signal for all of you to see it, so we had to leave. So then now we've made our way down this side, which is a little bit better because we actually have signal. And I'm not in Chiku anymore. I'm in open vehicle, which has been an interesting drive so far. We've been showered by dust like you cannot even believe how much dust. It's hard to really say because we can't see what's happened down in Tanzania. We can only see a part of it. But if we get lots of rain in those areas that it has burnt, then I suppose maybe yes, to a degree it will impact the migration because that's where the wildebeest are going to go. And the animals will be naturally drawn to all that short green grass. But we haven't really had an exceptional amount of rain. So I don't think it's going to do much difference just yet. And even in those burnt areas, I haven't heard of the guys saying, there's like thousands and thousands of them in that area. I think there's just been so much food everywhere at the moment that there hasn't been necessarily had to be a rush to find nice grazing. But it seems like the migration is now starting because there's just a constant stream every single day of thousands and thousands of wildebeest, more than 10,000 every single day, probably 3 times that amount in fact, gathering and crossing down further south of Serena. So yeah, we're getting there, slowly but surely. I mean, the wildebeest this time last year, they were already below camp, which is quite far away from here. And Lindsay, it really just boils down to there being so much rain. They haven't had the amount of rain that they had over the last couple of months in a very, 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 very long time. So, yes, there most certainly was a reason, and it's really just that. So there's just, like I said, there's lots of food around. Look at how tall the grass is still here. And we're fairly close to the Mara River. So you would think with all the animals gathered around here, that the grass would be fairly short, and normally it is. Normally this area, I mean, it's flat, you can just see quite far into it, but not even this has been grazed down just yet. So there's just so much food for them to choose. You can start to see along the edge of the river, which I'll point out to you when we get a bit closer at some point. where you can actually see the sort of grazing line and how the animals have mowed the grass. A lot of the grass is not even eaten. Most of it just gets trampled and then dies. You can imagine when there's over 1.5 million animals moving from point A to point B, they're going to be trampling lots and lots and lots of grass. So that's kind of what's happened too. But we'll start to see more evidence of that. But even when one herd of wildebeest, say a couple of thousand, move through an area, the next day you'll see it's like they've just left a pathway, really. Like we see in the mornings when we're tracking animals and the dew has, with the grass being slightly damp and the animals have walked, you can see how the grass bends. The same thing happens out here, just obviously higher animal density. So I see some cars racing around. Why are you all racing? Where are you going? I don't know. Please, can you say that name again? I don't want to say something I'm not supposed to say. I'm listening carefully now. There's a delay, unfortunately. Puffy Puff. Okay, that's fine. I was just checking because, you know, sometimes you all have very interesting names, but they're easy to read. But then when the directors try to say them to us, I mean, we've done a variety of stories on this and how we mess them up all the time. It can be interesting. So, Puffy Puff, I suppose wildebeest have got some intelligence. I mean, all animals are clever at varying degrees. I mean, I wouldn't put a wildebeest intelligence level at an elephant's or a dolphin's or a primate or anything like that. However, I'm sure after years and years of constantly doing the same thing, migrating, they'll have some idea, some old paths that they normally follow. And then it's just herd mentality. So if they see another herd gathering in one area, well, let me tell you, they'll come from all corners and start streaming in and then gather to the one point. And then they'll all cross together. So that happens. You see that a lot. Like 1 minute the crossing will start and before you know it, you look sort of on the hill. The Mara has sort of got these undulating hills and you'll just see lines of little black dots coming towards you from everywhere. And they can hear one another basically. So that canoeing sound that they make, that'll rally them all up and then they come stampeding on in. It'll be nice. I think we'll probably just stick around in this area and patrol up and down the river and see what those wildebeest get up to. I'll probably tell Jamie in a minute that we've got some arriving on scene because in the next hour or two it's going to be very sort of good time for the hyenas to get up and moving, and who knows, maybe there's the odd lion. So we're searching now. And hopefully we'll find some big cats along the river. But anyway, speaking of other creatures that live in the river and water, Steve's got the hippos.
The creatures. Well, indeed, we have got to this hippos finally laid down. The entire pod of hippos that was on the opposite side of this island, for some reason, sprinted into the water, and the huge flock of oxpeckers that was servicing their wounds has now moved and migrated onto this poor fellow, and you can clearly tell he's quite agitated. The cleaning of the wounds is quite painful. I've never seen a hippo move around this much. I think a lot of those wounds are very, very sore, and they just keep coming, the oxpeckers. He finally decided to lie down. It seemed like he was favouring or unfavouring his back left leg, I think it was. It didn't look very comfortable. Now he's lying down, out of the watchful eye of the territorial hippo, male hippo, that's probably on the other side of the island. Robert, you want to know how thick the skin is? It's about 1 inch or so. I've never actually delved into the thickness of hippo skin, but it's quite a thick sort of pelt. They make very nice, hippo skin is very well used in South Africa for making all sorts of I don't know if you've ever heard of a sjambok. It's almost like a whip. It's not like a stock whip that cracks. It's the solid piece. It can be about 2 meters long, that are used for driving cattle as well as disciplining naughty children sometimes. But the skin is, I'd say it's about 1 inch thick, which is quite thick. It's designed for protecting the body as well, but it is very, very, it's very prone to getting sunburnt and dehydrated. So they produce a very nice sort of secretion on the skin. that is supposed to keep it clean, supposed to keep them suntanned, keep the suntan, or it's like a suntan lotion, and also keep it from getting infected. But sometimes the oxpeckers just keep those wounds open, and there's nothing you can really do. You can see he's very uncomfortable, isn't he? Shame. Never nice to see, but that is the way it works out in the African wilderness. If he's not strong enough to dominate the bigger bull, then he's not going to breed. He needs to be able to dominate the bigger bull, and maybe in a little while, when he gets a bit bigger, with all the experience that he's clearly gone through, with all the beatings he's received, he might become a dominant, or he might always be the runt. Who knows? But on the other side of Chitwa watering hole, it's very cool to see. I haven't seen some of these in some time. We've got some yellow-billed storks busy shoaling or moving through the water with their very sensitive beaks. They walk as a pair like that. Sometimes you see 3 or 4 walking through the shallows, and what they're trying to do is flush fish or frogs or tadpoles, anything that goes into that beak. The beak snaps shut very quickly like a pair of chopsticks, like Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid when he catches the fly with his chopsticks. I thought that was amazing. And that is what they're doing. They're not filter feeding. They're moving through, disturbing the sediment with the tip of their beak, and anything that might quickly swim through their beak gets chomped. Quite an efficient way, because all sorts of things can be in there. And sometimes, there we go, got something. Sometimes they use their feet as well. Ooh. And when they do it as a pair, sometimes they lift their wings up to provide a bit of shade, not like the black heron does when they do the daytime, nighttime, but sometimes you see them doing it. Maybe it's for a bit of balance. But by doing it in a group, they facilitate, obviously like dolphins do. One will chase the fish and then the second one will catch the fish, which is quite helpful. Benefiting each other, of course. Beautiful birds. One of the prettiest storks. Okay, well, talking about migrating birds and migrating animals, it seems like James has found some locally born wildebeest.
Some what? Some what-y born wildebeest? Lately born? Oh, locally born. Yes, these are local wildebeest, everybody. These are the blue wildebeest that live in South Africa, as opposed to the blue wildebeest that live up in East Africa. They have the white-bearded gnu. We have the brindled gnu, which does not have a white beard. It has a black beard, like a pirate. There we are. You can see their beards. Even the ladies have beards and horns. Difficult to tell a male wildebeest from a female wildebeest. The males are bigger. Ooh, I was wrong, Sebastian. I don't know that they have been down to the water to drink. I'm going to wait here. And we might, if we're very patient, like Taylor's been patient for the last 3 months or so, we'll have a crossing of Treehouse Dam, which at last sight was about 3 inches deep. Won't that be exciting, Sebastian? Imagine that, our own crossing here in southern Africa of a migrating herd of some 20-odd wildebeest. There's a youngster making his way down to the water, thinking I need to drink, and I'm sure the grass is green on the other side. Rosh, I don't know. I mean, half the names we give to animals make absolutely no sense whatsoever. I don't know why they're called blue gnus. They're not blue. There's nothing blue about them. Their skin isn't vaguely blue. It's obviously brown. They're obviously dark brown. They're not even black. So how they came to be known as blue gnus, I couldn't begin to tell you. Maybe it's because it rhymed with gnu. But it is fairly ridiculous. Like white rhino and black rhino. They are, of course, not white or black. They're both grey. It's bad enough with the mammals, but when you get onto the birds, it's just utterly ridiculous. No, They do not have a blue tinge, Louise and Conrad, who are sitting in the final control room. You are mistaken. They say that if you look at them at the right time of the day in the right light, they have a blue tinge. No, I'm afraid I just don't buy that. There's nothing blue about them. I suspect they're called blue because, very dark blue can be black, and, maybe in the pitch black darkness, when they're moving as shadows, they look slightly navy. I don't know. But it's not because they're blue. No mammal is blue. Well, I mean, there are a couple of people I know who have blue hair, but that's because they've had it dyed for an unknown reason. All right, we're going to make it our way down to the water's edge for this epic crossing of a massive herd of wildebeest here, some 20 animals. Let's go back across to the Maasai Mara, where Taylor is sitting with another massive herd on one side of the river and a crocodile.
That we are at one of the largest watering holes we could find, the Mara River. And then we have a big old crocodile just enjoying itself. Archie always laughs at the way that their legs bend back. I don't know why, he always finds it quite funny. I don't know if that would be comfortable. Could you imagine laying like that crocodile? Not laying, lying, sorry. Well, I suppose crocodiles, can they lay? They lay eggs. But there they are, just sunbathing. And a good day too. It's actually a really nice spot. This is called Dusty Crossing. And the reason why I popped on past here, because this is the last time and the last area that I saw Scarface, the big male lion, and some of the Paradise Pride lionesses. So I was just having a squiz around here. And it's nice and sheltered too. And the water doesn't flow too fast. It's a cool area. So you can see the hippos and the crocodiles really do enjoy their time here. No need to be fighting rapids or anything like that. Very pretty. Not prissy. There we go. Not a lot of bird life around. I thought we would have seen maybe some storks, some herons and things just wading through this water. Maybe it is just too deep. I'm not brave enough to jump on in there and tell you how deep it is. I suppose we can sort of gauge from the hippos, hey? Let's see what they're doing. Hippos? No. Too early for them, I think. What is the time now? Well, it's 11 minutes past 5 East African time. I'm going to say that in 45 minutes the hippos will wake up and start getting a little bit more active. But for now, as they do for most of the day, they're just sort of relaxing about. I can't believe we didn't see them up on the banks of the river, also sunbathing with the crocodiles. It's not been warm today, or not exceptionally hot. I made the mistake this morning, as I do every day. I go out in shorts, as you all know, but I just took a light jersey. I thought the clouds would lift, but they didn't. They lifted only at about 11 o'clock. Everyone was standing, shivering, trying to keep it nice and warm. Okay, well, didn't win here. Let's try another spot. Now I've got to not make sure I don't go into first gear and go straight off the edge. Ooh, it's raining now. Okay, well, it's a bit of a monkey's wedding now. It's starting to drizzle. I wonder if it's drizzling where Jamie is.
It hasn't hit us yet, a little bit to the north of where Taylor is, but it's something of, I don't know, I suppose you'd call it rhapsody on a theme this afternoon for our sunset safari. Elephants, waterholes, rivers, elephants at waterholes, crocodiles, hippos, rinse, repeat. Fortunately, I'm sure none of you will get tired of the stunning views of the Mara River. The reason we've come here is I want to see what's happening. I want to see if there's any North Clan members around. And I'm just enjoying the sun, really, because I know in a few short minutes, if it's raining on Taylor, it's going to start raining on us as well. Some massive crocs sitting, waiting for the large numbers of wildebeest that Taylor is sitting with, or would have been sitting with further down south. So there's a huge herd that is promising to cross further on. But these crocodiles don't follow the wildebeest. They don't go up and down depending upon where the best food will be available. They stick largely in the same place. Certain areas dominated by one big, massive individual, usually a big male crocodile, and they don't go swimming off down the river unless it's out of their control, which is what happened during the floods. So especially for the smaller crocs, not for these big guys. I mean, these things that are lying on this bank are longer than I am tall, and I'm 5'7". I'm just going to make absolutely certain that I've got this name right. Emma, if you could assist me with that, just to be certain. Just before I make a mistake. I have indeed got the name right. Pussy Puss, you would like to know when crocodile breeding season is in the Mara. Now, of course, let's start at the beginning with that whole question. Crocodiles nest in the sandy banks just up above the waterline of the river. So they will breed after the short rains, between the short rains and the long rains. So around about January, February, I believe, is the breeding season of the crocodile in the Maasai Mara. I might have got that wrong, actually. I must double check myself, but I'm pretty sure that's when they breed. They don't want their eggs to be washed away by the flood waters of the river rising. Interestingly, it's fascinating to know that the temperature that the crocodiles hatch at or are incubated at will determine whether you've got males or females. If it gets too hot, you get too many of one. If you get too cold, if they get too cold, then you get too many of the other, and so on. The absolute reverse to tortoises, weirdly. Still temperature dependent, but the reverse way round. Now I have to remember, I always get this confused. Feel free to correct me, I'm sure you shall. Which way round is it? I think it's that females in tortoises hatch or hatch at hotter temperatures, created it to incubate at hotter temperatures, and the male's cold. And it's the reverse with crocodiles. I'm so rusty. I can tell you everything about a spotted hyena, but you think I can remember the temperatures of crocodiles? I think it's the reverse. Emma's very kindly told me that she'll let me know if we get any comments. I can guarantee that if I have got it wrong, all right, that we shall. I think I've got this wrong one as well. I heard cow's lick, and I can only assume it's because of the wind blowing over my ear, but wanting to know about any news on waffles. Yes, indeed, waffles did absolutely nothing from Saturday. Kel-six? Kel-sticks. Any thoughts, James, on that name? Kel-six, Kel-sticks? We'll go with Cal. We'll go with Cal. Cal? Any news on waffles? No, not since I last saw you on Saturday morning. It was cold, it was rainy, it was miserable, and she was there, but she wasn't bringing that cub out. And then she wandered off and went and lay down elsewhere, so we finally abandoned the stakeout at her den. But we'll be going back there later this evening towards the end of the sunset safari, never you fear. I am determined that when we properly see that cub, you will be there with us. You will share that moment with us, because I've had so much to myself, desperately wishing that you were there with me. Cow sticks? I like cow sticks, to be honest. I'm going to go with that. I'm just going to go with that at this point. Dozy crocodiles. Alrighty. So we're going to leave our crocodiles and send you across to... hold on 1 second. Something gave those elephants a fright. Sorry. I don't mean to stop you from this. Let's just have a quick look there. Maybe there's a lion in the bushes. They've just come running out to the left. No. Sorry. I thought maybe it was a lion that had given them a fright, but they're calm now. All right. Well, let us then carry on with our Rhapsody on a Theme and go and join James with Zebra.
Yes, we've got a zebra. There you can see it. It is across a little dry stream that feeds out of a treehouse dam. The great migration that we saw, unfortunately, took one sniff at the water in Treehouse Dam, turned their collective nose upwards, and have now headed up probably towards quarantine clearings near camp and the Juma Dam camp. So have a look out for them in about 20 minutes over there. We've got two zebras over here I'm not sure what their relationship is to each other. While we see if they interact with each other, I just want to say that I don't know if you were watching the TV show the other night when we had Jamie. It was in the TV show, not in the rehearsal. I'm pretty sure it was in the TV show, when Jamie was narrating a battle between the Happy Zebra clan and the North clan. Can someone in Final Control make sure that I'm not spoiling things here for the 5th episode? It was the 4th episode, wasn't it? All right, good. That episode played out in episode 4. Excellent. Anyway, I found it most amusing. Jamie's narration is brilliant, but I could not bring myself to stop laughing when she referred to Waffles as a battle commander, simply because Waffles is the most un-battle commander name you could imagine. It's not quite like Alexander the Great, Napoleon, Shaka, or even Alexander's horse, Bucephalus. Waffles. Waffles does not sound like a great battle commander, although clearly she did a very good job. You see, the zebra agrees with me. Now, we were talking earlier about the state of the veld, and the veld, or the rangeland that these animals must eat, is very brown and dry. As you can see there, that zebra is in fine condition. You can tell that, of course, bless you, Sebastian, you can tell that, of course, from the fact that the mane is standing upright. That means that there are fat reserves in the neck, and only once those fat reserves are used up and the mane starts to lie down, do we start to think that the zebra are not in good condition. So although they are eating what you and I would define as straw, they are managing to derive sufficient nutrition from that straw. It's really a very nice picture of a zebra in this vegetation. Minimum, I think about 20 millimeters or 1 inch of rain would turn this place pretty green pretty quickly. I don't think that it would take much more than that. It would then go brown again pretty quickly if it didn't rain some more. So although the reason I'm becoming distracted is that when I look at this animal through my binoculars, there is a blue tinge to the fur, but I see that that is just my binoculars, it is not the camera. Anyway, so if we received 1 inch of rain and it got very hot again, then you would find that the greenery would disappear again quite quickly. So we'd probably need about 100 millimeters or so, which is just over 4 inches, for it to maintain its green state. I think these 2 young bachelors who have been forced out of their herd, they're going to have to go and find some ladies one day when they're old enough and big enough to challenge the fathers of the fillies that they find. Once they challenge the fathers of the fillies and put up a sufficient fight, they will be able to get themselves some wives. There are species of zebra, 4 at last count. We have got the plains zebra, which is this one, and the one that you see in the Maasai Mara. They are different subspecies of each other. And then there is the Grevy's zebra, which looks like an enormous donkey, an enormous ass, if you like, wild ass. And then there are 2 species of mountain zebra. So 4 species of zebra in total. The mountain zebras occur in much drier areas than the plains zebras, and you'll find them up in Namibia. You will find the Hartmann's mountain zebra, and then you'll find the Cape mountain zebra down, unsurprisingly, in the Cape of South Africa. And in fact, some people consider the 2 mountain zebras the same species, just different subspecies of each other. So we could just say that there are 3 species of zebra. There is also something called an African wild ass, which I think I'm going to show you a picture of because it's quite amusing. There it is. I mean, that is not the best. If you've ever ridden horses before or had anything to do with horses, if you had a horse that looked like that, you'd be laughed out of the stable yard. The African wild ass, Equus africanus. Very amusing. Just above it's the Grevy zebra with its very closely interspersed stripes. Sorry about that. There's some alarm calling up ahead. Sounds like a bushbuck or a kudu. Let's carry on. It's so far away I can't tell. It's just, I think, in the riverbed that feeds Twin Dams, in other words in the Umulawamati. Let us drive at some speed. Sorry, zebras. We're after spots now. Definitely something shouting up ahead, going bah, bah, bah. All right, while we go down here and give it our full concentration, let's head across to the Vorf, who is heading north up our eastern boundary, I think.
Well, hello everybody. We are on Torchwood now, and we don't often get to come on here, so I'm quite excited. Here we are on a little road called Rock Ridge, which is quite interesting because you don't see many rocks in the Sabi Sands, exposed rocks, well, in the areas that we work in. And here we've got a beautiful, beautiful rock formation that is all granite, and it would be a beautiful spot to have a sundowner. Beautiful spot. Imagine finding a pride of lions just sitting on the top here, eyeing us out. You can see the remnants there in the bottom left of a little bit of a puddle from the rain that we had. Places I've worked at before in the Lowveld with rocks like this are ideal places for catching and storing water for just a couple days or so until it starts to photosynthesize. As you can see, there's a bit of algae already growing in the side there. Yes, it's a crazy landscape. So places like this are actually quite common in other parts of the Lowveld, but in the area that we generally are in the Sabi Sands, we don't get too many of them. But these sort of exposed rocky areas of granite are actually quite common in the Lowveld, especially in the granitic areas where we are. I'm surprised we don't have any outcrops where we are. I know, looking at the map the other day, going all the way down to Malamala, Singita, Londolozi, they've got lots of those down there, and those are perfect sort of nesting or den sites for leopard. Ferg is playing games there behind the camera. He can't help himself. Might have seen a weird shadow on my face. Thanks, Fergus. So I don't think this road goes anywhere, but we are learning. I've got a map. There's no updates of any sightings. But look at this. Isn't this the perfect spot to stop and have a little apple juice or something? Yes, it would be. I know Ralph had Tingana in this drainage system not too long ago. This is the Mulwanini coming from Torchwood, and then it goes all the way down south. There's actually Chitwa. Chitwa's down there. You can see the masts of Chitwa in the distance, very far away. There's the mast, and there you can see that sort of round, what we call a koppie. That would be another granitic sort of outcrop, also known as an Inselberg. Bearing in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that granite is a magma that never came to the surface. There's a huge ball of molten rock that came up in a plume underneath the Earth's crust, many kilometers supposedly below, and over millennia of weathering, the parent rock above has been weathered away, and that exposes that very hard granitic rock underneath. That's why it looks like a little bit of a head. A koppie is an Afrikaans word for head, and also known as an Inselberg. Islands in the landscape, and all over the Lowveld, those are very commonplace. I've worked in a number of places where we have plenty of those, and Juma does lack them. It's unfortunate because they're lovely to climb. It's a beautiful place for sundowner spots. Beautiful habitat for klipspringer, which we don't see in Juma, and also a lovely place for snakes and reptiles. So different sort of animal species and organisms can live there, and plant species as well will occur there, because there's a different sort of water and nutrient sort of gradient on a koppie like that. So you'll get all sorts of different dynamics happening in and around. And we come all the way back up this drainage. We're going to be exploring Torchwood for the next little while. Those elephants that we were following obviously weren't playing the game, and they gave us an absolute slip. So hopefully we'll find something else for you shortly. But in the meantime, let's go all the way up to Taylor McCurdy and let's see exactly what she's going to be showing you this time.
Well, woo! Sorry, everybody. It's very dangerous, the situation I'm in at the moment. Every time I'd look away and I'd take my hands off the steering wheel, the car goes, do you know, I just think I'm just going to go left. I'm going to go left today, and then it just goes. So I'm sorry if I don't look at all of you for too long. Anyways, we're going to try to stay on the road and keep everybody alive. We're going to go to cul-de-sac now, though. I'm just checking for basically any sign of lions. Our lioness that's been hanging around. Oh, hang on. Does the late migration affect who? I'm so sorry, it's very difficult to hear everyone today. Go, Impala, go. Jump, jump. I'm just going to pull off. Sorry, I'm waiting for Emma to let me know. The ecosystem. There we go, Ashley. Fantastic. It's a horrible delay also between South Africa and Juma, so when we ask for anything, it's quite funny because we sit and we're going. Anyways, we'll get back to it now. So, Ashley, I'm trying to think. No one has really ever seen the migration this late before. Been asking around for people who've been here for like 20 years doing this, and they've never seen it come through so late. So this is all very new to us. So I think it's quite difficult to sort of say what's going to happen. Again, we don't even know if the migration if we're going to get a full migration. We might not. We know that the animals migrate for a purpose of finding greener pastures, finding more food. And like I've been saying, and if you have been following the migration series, the Gauntlet, we've been talking about how food is important. Food and water is obviously vital for survival. So there's just been good quality food all over the show, lots of water because of the rain. So there hasn't been that urgency to sort of race on to the next place. Like you would go to a takeaway restaurant and all of a sudden they don't have what you want, so you would go to the next one. They're lucky every time they go to the restaurant they have what they've ordered. So I don't know if that makes sense. Analogies. So it's amazing how we as guys we come up with the most bizarre analogies. But anyways, so I don't know if it's going to affect the ecosystem. We'll have to kind of just wait and see. Lots and lots of new things. Late migration, lots of rain, which hadn't happened in a long time. Now it's drizzling. I don't know if you can see the drizzle. It's weird. What do you call this in the rest of the world? In South Africa, we call it a monkey's wedding. When it rains, when it's sunshine. Archie, what do you call it? A lion's wedding. Archie says in Kenya they call it a lion's wedding. I'm so sorry. What did you just say to me, Emma? I missed all of that. I don't know if there's something wrong with my earpiece. I could also just be going deaf. I've also now realized that my hearing is not as good as what it used to. Oh, Jamie's got a running away animal. We better very quickly go to her.
I have a Topi being a Topi. Topi just love to run. They don't need an excuse. They often chase each other around. I don't know if that's where's that second one gone? There's the second one. The second one is still all the way down there. Those two came running up out of the lugger system. I don't know what that was all about. Topi being Topi. To continue on with Taylor's discussion about the late migration, I cannot imagine that it hasn't affected the ecosystem in some way, not necessarily in a major or a permanent one, but we've seen such a massive movement in lion pride territories, just in terms of their desperate search for food. The sausage tree pride have moved all the way almost to Tanzania. The Winnow pride the same. It is extraordinary how far the lion prides have moved and how they've changed from our perception of them last year. Of course, the high season and the migration brings in all sorts of people, and I would love to know during the high season, how many people walk away from their visit to the Mara with an average picture of a Topi on a termite mound? Because I think that number is exceeded only by the people who have walked away with an average picture of a lilac-breasted roller on a bush next to the road. I'm not being insulting in any way, it's just something that seems to happen. I have seen 5 vehicles at one time all packed together trying to get a photo of a Topi on a termite mound. If you are one of those people who has come and visited the Mara and has walked away with an average picture of a Topi on a termite mound or an average lilac-breasted roller, I am not insulting you. I am absolutely on that list of people who have taken average pictures of Topis on termite mounds. Our Topi now is facing away from us. There was actually one a little bit closer to the road. There he is. So far, we seem to be following the sun, which I feel is a very appropriate approach to this afternoon. They're not beautiful creatures. I accidentally once, while I was live, I think might have been during a TV show Panic, said that I thought Topi were beautiful. I guess they are in their own way. They've got their attractive qualities. They've got beautiful coats. But, yeah, I don't know if we'd call them beautiful. Striking, perhaps. Powerful, certainly. Naturally, it chose that exact moment to scratch its bottom. So they do get caught up in the excitement of the migration, and every now and again we get some of them crossing with wildebeest or zebra, caught up in the panic. All right, from our striking Topi to something perhaps better looking, let's go and join Taylor before hers flies off.
Well, lovely. I don't know if I'm trying to think of words I would use to describe a yellow-billed stork. I don't know if lovely is one of them. Archie, what would you use to describe these birds that we're looking at? Storky. Very funny. But there we go. Not as many as we would normally see. Where is everybody today? It's like they were all on holiday. Who have we got over there? Oh, one of our favorites, the bin chicken, aka the African sacred ibis. That one has only got one leg. No, it hasn't. It has got 2 legs. It's just resting one at the moment. Perhaps doing some Pilates and yoga, as you should do in the afternoon. And then, of course, the lovely crocodiles of the beach, all just resting up. But this isn't majority of them. There are actually quite a few in the water today. But like I said, I think just soaking up the last of the warmth. Because I don't understand what's going on. Why is there rain? And then I have to show you something that's amazing after we look at this one that's just gone underneath the water. Typical. Thank you very much, crocodile. You're not going to make it in showbiz, but look at this, a 2-headed crocodile. Never been seen before here on the banks of the Mara River. I just kind of wish that crocodile would just swish its tail off to the left and closer to the other one, and then it would have been more convincing. But it was a nice... I tried to hashtag trick you all, but I didn't. Haha. That's my thing. Lovely colours, though. Oh, perfect. Just opened its eye in time. And the Nile crocodile have got just the most beautiful eyes. Who else have we got flying around? Oh, well, sure. Could some wind get you there, stork? That's crazy. Did you see the way that stork came in? Not very graceful, unfortunately. You'll have to try a bit better. Perhaps it's only just got its license to fly. You know? And training. I do have quite a few friends that are pilots, and often they say when they're practicing on their own, it gets a bit hair-raising. Off to the water you go. You look quite dirty as well. You look a bit like me. Hair, or aka feathers for birds, a bit of a mess. And then look at all the dust on its face. It actually looks exactly like how I look at the moment. And of course the lovely calls of the hippos. Although the hippos haven't been doing too much, but maybe, what time did I say they were going to get active? Soon. In like 20 minutes time. We'll see if they start to wake up. That sound is always a good sound. Okie dokie, we might sit here for a little bit longer, see what else happens. Off you go back to Steve.
Well, thank you, Taylor. We have found a small bachelor herd of zebra, and they are busy feeding in the open area We're going deeper and deeper into the heart of Torchwood. A very nice open area just below a tall band of Terminalia. The seep line, no doubt, above us. And the zebra are quite enjoying the long grass produced here. When I say seep line, I mean that there's water that comes out of the ground at a certain level where the clay meets, or the sand meets the clay, and that leads to almost a treeless landscape, because a lot of the trees don't do very well. You might find certain acacia species growing there. You might find guava plants as well, but generally indicative of a very sort of long life silver cluster leaves. And we're quite enjoying the forage here. Little bachelor group. You can tell that by, if you look closely behind them, you can't see it now, but when they all had their bottoms facing us, there's quite a thin dark line underneath the tail. They are not female, they are male, and so they spend time together fighting and playing with each other, defending and getting to the strength that they need to eventually be able to compete for females. Prakat Mama, you want to have zebras sleep standing up or lying down? Well, a bit of both. A bit of both. You'll often find one zebra lying down and one standing next to it. But they both go into sort of form of sleep during that time. But I think that the one lying down gets the proper sleep, and then they'll switch over. And I always love finding those tracks on the ground when a zebra's been lying down and rolling in the sand. It really is quite something. But I think horses are able to sleep standing up, but often they will lie down. But they can't lie down for too long. It starts to interfere with their digestive system. They've got a lot of gas inside there. So a horse every now and again, or a zebra every now and again, has to stand up to release that pressure. And an animal like that, a zebra or a horse, or an elephant or a rhino or hippo that lies down for too long, well, it'll lead to colic and all sorts of pain in the tummy, which is only alleviated by sort of a puncture wound in the side to let all the gas out. So it's not ideal. So these animals don't want to lie down for too long. Lots of fermentation happening inside there, like when you open a fizzy drink bottle. If you shake it and then open it, that explosion of gas that comes out, that's pretty much what's happening inside of the bellies of these animals, except it's actual fermentation that's taking place as if the microorganisms and the fermentation of the material inside there is breaking it down, and that's where they get a lot of their nutrients from. Very nice, pretty picture with the golden light from the west. Kathy, zebras don't sound too much like donkeys. I think the sound of donkeys, zebra and horses all comes from a similar sort of design, but the sound is very, very different. I'm not going to do it for you right now, because I think, Ferg, you're an expert at the zebra call, aren't you? I just don't quite have it in my mind at the moment, but and my phone played some funny tricks on me and deleted all the sounds that I had, so I need to find them again. But the zebra make this very high-pitched sort of shouting sound that is nothing like a donkey, but you can tell that the organs that created come from somewhere similar. But horses, zebras make the same sort of. See, he looks at me there. And they're quite relaxed, these guys, in the open. He is answering my call, Emma. Well, fantastic. We're going to move on deeper into Torchwood, see what else we might be able to uncover. It's nice to be exploring new roads, and obviously we need to bear in mind where we are with regards to signal, because the further east we go, the more chance we have of breaking up. If we keep on the west-facing slopes, we will be good. Let us go. Don't forget, folks, this is Interactive Safari. Send through your questions and comments, hashtag Safari Live, or jump on the YouTube stream. And while we move on, let's go back up to James. I'm not sure what he's up to, but I'm sure it's something interesting.
I am driving up the valley of the great Umulawamati River, and I'm afraid we have found no sign of any animal that could have been making a barking alarm call. We found a few impala. They were very relaxed. We found a few waterbuck. They don't bark. They were also very relaxed. And I found no tracks of a spotted leopard, so I don't know what it was. It was quite far away, so the chances are I misheard the direction from whence it came. But I will do my level best, I assure you, to find whatever was causing consternation amongst the barking antelope. We will drive around another half hour or so before heading back to the lions, in case you were wondering whether we're going to go back to the lions. We'll spend the last 45 minutes or so of the drive there. There is Spiker. No, Spiker has run away. It was a female diker, everybody. Standing looking at us, watched Sebastian swing on his pedestal and thought, to hell with that, and disappeared. It's much cooler down here, I must say. It's quite nice to drive in the riverbeds when it's a hot day like today. And of course, a day like today we would not describe as vaguely hot in summer. Oh, I'm sorry, our signal apparently is not great, so we're going to go to the Maasai Mara, where the signal is better. Jamie, don't know what she's doing. She'll tell you in about 3 seconds.
I thought this was very pretty and I wanted to share it with all of you. Little Thompsons with a Topi in the back walking through the grass. We've sort of got the start of the monkey's wedding now as well. It's raining even though the sun is shining. It just looks so pretty. The 3 little boys wandering along, their tails swishing. I enjoy Thompson's gazelle. My goal, because they have started to give birth, is to get a Tommy birth on camera. Still haven't managed that. I don't think any of us have. We've come close. Come very, very close. But we haven't seen one giving birth live yet. Oh! Through the fields of the red oat grass. I think there's even a giraffe somewhere in the background. Unfortunately, now they are walking quite far away from us, though. Very pretty. Very scenic. That is directly in the direction of North Clan's old den. We're going to go back towards North Clan. Now, there's some zebras up ahead. I'm just going to move a bit further forward. We're going to go back towards Waffles now. I just don't think she's going to bring the little one out in the rain, but she's proved me wrong before. No. Anna Marie, while we look at a stripy animal, you're talking of a stripy animal of a different kind. You want to know if I have seen any striped hyena, and the answer to that is no. I have seen no striped hyena. I'm very disappointed. One of the few places I've actually been where you could see a striped hyena. They don't really occur in the triangle. You'll see them more in the southeastern corners of the Maasai Mara, in the rocky sections. I haven't seen any. But there's another stripy animal to keep us entertained, slightly less rare than a striped hyena. No, don't rain on my parade. Weeks of no rain, and now all of a sudden it's back again. It's good though. The Mara is very dry. So we have a stripy zebra. Lots of zebra on today's drive. And some impala at the back. We've got all the antelope and plains game, as we would call it, with their massive horns. Jamie, sorry, we're looking at impala, but let's go back to our zebra while we answer Jamie's question. Jamie wants to know, why do some of the zebra look brown? Some of them do have a brown tinge to their stripes. I once even saw that beautiful brown foal. Oh, it must have been over a year ago now. Oh, that was a bird, you silly thing. That was just a bird. You can calm down. So some of them do look slightly different to others. It's a genetic thing. Not quite leucism, not obviously albinism, which is a complete lack of pigment. But they do come in different colours. Most of them, however, are black and white. I've also found that some zebra are more beautiful than others, which sounds bizarre when you say it, but some of them just have this perfect balance between their black stripes and their white stripes. I don't quite know how to describe what I mean, but I know what I mean. Especially in light like this. They're very photogenic animals. They're also very nasty animals to each other. I've watched them as they come out of the crossing, panicked, terrified. oh, there's one too close behind me, I'm going to kick it in the face, just because it's there. It seems so cruel to add an extra level of stress to another zebra's life. I suppose it makes sense, though. Nervous, jumpy, they sense a presence behind them. Strizzling. I'm wondering if it's actually going to become harder than it is at the moment. I don't think so, though. I think we're okay. I don't think it's going to be a proper downpour. Oh, look how beautiful that impala looks over there, standing tall. The one that's just a little bit... There you go. That's stunning. Those massive horns. Even though I've been here over a year now, I still do a double take when I see the male impala here. I'm so accustomed to seeing impala in southern Africa. They're just so much bigger. Oh, he's beautiful. Fully grown ram, over 4 years old. And of course, the reason for this massive difference, first of all, resource availability, the food quality is better, but also they don't have a specific breeding season. For that reason, I suppose, one of the reasons. But it means that the males are sort of constantly in a heightened state, constantly looking for a female in estrus, fighting each other. Very different, what's the word? Very different, I suppose, social structure, almost. Social dynamics to the impala in South Africa. Look at that one. That's cool. One horn longer than the other. Beautiful peak condition. You can see the rain is starting to fall now. Unfortunately, it's also starting to come inside. I'm going to have to, at some point, put us somewhere where we can close down one side of the vehicle. I think that's what I'm going to go and do right now. Taylor is several steps ahead of me, given that the rain is coming from the south. Let's go and see how much it's raining on her side.
Look at this, look at this. Sorry, I just took my foot off the brake. I don't know what's happened. I don't know if this impala has given birth, is about to give birth. You can see there's a lot of blood on her back legs. And she's eating something in the grass too. And every now and then she pulls something out of the grass. So I think she might be eating the afterbirth. But where's her youngster? Or what is this? Maybe it's just about to happen? I haven't got a clue what's going on here. Because I can't see any little lamb. See, there's the blood on her back legs. It's very interesting. I have not seen an impala give birth for a very, very long time. You got to be so lucky. Sorry, I'm just listening to the update. Sometimes the comms come through when they're not supposed to. Yeah, but I find that really bizarre because I don't see any jackals around. I don't see any lions or leopard or cheetah or anything. Where is the young lamb? What's happened? Do you think she's maybe, I don't know, maybe this little one just wasn't cooperating inside and, well, she's, I suppose, had a miscarriage. Louise, I don't know, and this is Louise from FC. I've just said I'm not actually sure if it is the afterbirth. I can't see a lamb anywhere, so I don't know if perhaps this is a premature birth or something like that. Maybe it wasn't even born properly. I don't know. But she's past something. You can clearly see from her back legs, but I can't see a young lamb anywhere. And at this stage, if she had given birth, she would be licking the youngster too and trying to help it up, but she's not done that once. Bizarre. Really, really interesting. But it's natural, of course, for animals to eat the afterbirth. They do it. And it's also hard to try and gauge when an impala is going to give birth out here in the Mara, because they're not seasonal like they are in South Africa. We always talk about how food is so important, and these animals want to give birth just after rain. So, of course, there's lots of nice green grass for them so that they can recover too. It obviously takes it out all female animals. And for all of you who had children, you know how exhausting the process is from start to finish, and how you're absolutely gutted right at the end. So, got to get as many minerals as you can. But I just don't understand really what's gone on. I think what's happened is Joy, you said maybe the placenta has preceded the young lamb. Perhaps, maybe. But she also doesn't look particularly big. You know, when we see these impalas and when they do give birth, I mean, they're bursting at the seams. They've got a huge belly. It does look like there's a bit of a distortion there. That doesn't look normal. What do you think, hey, Archie? There's definitely a bulge there. I don't know. I don't know what's gone on, unfortunately. I wish I was here. I think this has really just happened. We must have missed it by a matter of seconds. Perhaps if I didn't put my jerseys on, as I've layered up now, then maybe we would have seen what actually happened. But it's very, very difficult to tell what's actually gone on over here. I kind of wanted to turn around so we can sort of see towards her nether regions, and I don't know, just have a little look. Very interesting though. Wow. And out in the open like this too. You see, this doesn't make sense. Normally when animals will go and give birth, antelope species, they'll go off into an area where it's a bit more secluded. So there's the rest of the herd just there. So this has recently just happened. And vulnerable. You wouldn't want to give birth to a young lamb out in the open like this, because this is a hot spot for jackals. There are potentially lots of lions around. And, well, we're in the Northland territory. So not a particularly good spot. So I think that there's been some complications, that if something has gone wrong here. And perhaps her body just couldn't take it. And had to, of course, get rid of it one way or the other. Really, really strange and interesting at the same time. Nature's wonderful. And again, we can only just speculate. We can really just only speculate as to what's actually gone on. Bizarre. Anyways, even though we don't really know what happened here, it'll be a mystery forever. It seems as though James is doing some sort of magic trick and he has disappeared.
Now, I noticed a little while back that the great go-away birds were climbing into tambuti trees. Well, they weren't climbing so much as flying into them, and they were eating the buds of something or other. Well, obviously the buds of the tree, and so I thought I would come up here and investigate precisely what it is that they were eating. I'm not going to put this in my mouth, of course, because, well, I'm pretty sure that it would be toxic. It does have the milky white latex, but what I am going to do is snap off a branch and bring it down to you to show you. This may have to be in the next segment, but I will try and extricate myself from this tree while telling you a little bit more about it. I'm going to drop this branch and watch where it lands. Okay, I think I've got it. Good. Also in the tree, just below me left foot, can you see there, Sebastian? Here is my left foot. There is a leopard orchid. You see that? You may well have a tree in your way. Well, a little leopard orchid epiphyte, which we don't often find around here. There are a few around, but not that many. Now, I know that if Kirsten was directing, she would almost certainly remain with us to see if I came a cropper. Oh, I can link when I want, but do they want to stay or do they want to go? I mean, what do the viewers want? Do they want to witness the grown man plummet to the ground? All right, well, let's stay. Let's see if I can do this live. It's not a very pleasant tree to climb, I must tell you. It's rather spiky on the limbs. You know, the soft inner parts of the limbs. very things that I do for this show in order to inform you and myself of interesting bits of biology. What is that? Oh, my microphone's breaking up. Well, it's not the only thing that's breaking up. But now we come to the tricky bit. Getting down from here. I will confess to you that when I got up, I had a little help from the car. I was rather hoping that from this position I may actually be able to swing down. I am no longer convinced of this eventuality, and I'm quite nervous. I am not going to tell a lie. Right, well, here we go. All righty. The business end, as it were. And this is where I left it. Oh, thank you. Quite funny if there was a leopard watching. So that's what they've been eating. And like I say, they do have bits of milky latex. They will of course eventually become flowers, and then they will become the seeds that I forget the name of the caterpillar, but there's a caterpillar that lives inside them and makes them pop and makes them jump around. Okay, I'll break a piece off. See if I can show you the latex. They're quite sticky. And there, if you just look at the end of that thing, you'll be able to see a little bit of white there.
Yeah, just stand your hand back a little bit. Yeah.
And that is the toxic milky white latex. All right. Phew. Right, let me plug myself back in so that I may... Here, Emma. See my hands, Sebastian. Look at them, they're cut to pieces. My elbow. Oh.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's put this in my ear now. Oh dear, I think I've lost it.
In the tree?
No, I've got it. There we are. Okay. Right, on we go. Haven't done that for a while. I quite enjoyed it, actually. Let's just hope that there are no toxins from the tree that have entered my bloodstream as a result of the cuts and abrasions I've received. If I start shaking, convulsing violently, you'll know that there were. I don't know, really. You ask a very, very good question, aged just 7 years old. How do the moth's caterpillars get in there? I can think that they... Well, let's think about it. There's a flower. I suppose the egg... All right, we're breaking up a bit. I suppose what happens, Lily, is the egg is perhaps laid on the flower, and then when the flower closes over and becomes the seed, maybe the caterpillar's trapped inside, and it eats the flower and eats what's in there, and then pops out. That would be my best guess, but I'm not actually sure. Alrighty, on we go. Alright, let's go across to Stivovo. Has he done his medicines yet? No, I think that may be tomorrow, I'm not sure.
No, I haven't. I was thinking about doing them today. I am fully prepared. But the opportunity to explore Torchwood has gotten in the way. So tomorrow will be another day. I'm sorry, folks. But it does seem to fold over Mondays and Tuesdays these days, doesn't it? I hope everyone's okay with that. We could have stopped and done it, but that would have eliminated exploration of this wonderful place. Very good. Very good. Well, we're still in a good signal spot. I would like to go back and watch James's dismount. Should we do a Twitter poll? Hey, Emma, should we do a Twitter poll on what the viewers rate James's dismount from that tree to be? I think that's a good idea. Everyone rated him 10 out of 10, did they? Ferg? What do you reckon? We didn't see it. We didn't see it. We can't judge. No doubt it was... Well, we've seen James on other trees, which haven't been great. It was a very good dismount and landing. Well done, James. Well done. You didn't fall out of this tree then. I suppose statistically, the more trees you climb, the more chance you've got of falling out of them. I think both Brent and James have both fallen out of trees live. I haven't yet climbed. I've climbed one tree live. It was a very easy tree to climb. Okay, so we are heading directly south on a very aptly named rhino cut line, and there's loads of tracks in the road. Very busy area. Nice sort of open, it's not very open, but there's some nice patches of openness that we've been driving through, and the open sort of savanna facilitates sort of more grass. That's what kind of happens when you have less trees. There's a balance in the savanna between grasses and trees, and the increase you get in trees, you get a decrease in grass, and the more open or the less trees you get a sort of decrease in the productivity. It starts leading to more what you'd call sort of unpalatable grasses, but there's this balance between semi-shade and openness, which gives that very nice species-rich, species diversity, high-quality vegetation, which is what historically you would want in a place like this. And because we've got lots of watering holes, I know we talk about this topic a lot, lots of watering holes, there is the need to manage, and bush clearing is a reality. The elephants can't keep up with it all. Using of the local resources for erosion work is quite helpful, and also the creation or production of firewood for the beautiful fires that people like to enjoy and sit around. All a necessary part and parcel of using your local resources, obviously sustainably. Okay, we're going to keep checking the tracks. Wouldn't mind just bumping in to a lovely leopard or two, but in the meantime, let's go to Jamie up in the Mara with her hyena.
Well, while Steve searches for something spotty, we've got something even spottier than a leopard, because leopards are actually more rosetted than they are spotted. We have, of course, come to North Clan's den site, where young Tip is being given the once-over by, it looks like Elsie, from where I'm sitting. One of the highest-ranked females, in fact, the highest-ranked female, after Waffles' family. So after the matriarch's family, there comes Elsinore and Anatolian. It's not Elsie, never mind. Talking nonsense, not Elsie. As soon as I saw the right side, I knew it wasn't her. Unfortunately, we are currently covers down, which means you're going to be seeing a lot of shifting around. It's raining. It's one of those things. Hyenas love the rain. Unfortunately, it's not too bad, so I'm hoping that we can put one side up rather than having to try and film them through the window. Can you still see one there, James? I can't see if you can see one. Okay, so we've still got Tip, and we've got probably about 8 hyena, 9 hyena wandering along in this direction. So that's a good start. So we'll sit here for a little bit, and then we'll go and see, once the rain has abated slightly, whether or not Waffles is home. Oh, Tip, scared. Who's coming, girl? Who's coming to torment you? Oh, very dominant display from one of the cubs. There's Remington, Tip's mum. There she goes. Oh, Remington, what you doing? Giving your baby a cuddle. It's nice to see Remington around her. I missed who that question was from, I apologize, but did Waffles let the other mother come and suckle at the den? She did. She absolutely did. In fact, the last few times I've been that side, she has been suckling with Waffles, or next to Waffles. Malika, you wanted to know. That's why I heard the name Malika and then immediately thought of cheetah. So yes, she has. They're sharing the den. They're sharing that natal den. Who are you? Very submissive to Remington. Oh, maybe not, actually. I know this hyena. I think she's always here. So some nice interactions between the various members of the clan. It's also very difficult to try and gauge where they all are. We'll have to settle for this view for now. They're going through that really scruffy stage. That is, you know him. You all know him. He's an easy one to ID, that little hyena. There you go. Notch out of the left ear. Essio Trot. Full name is Essio Trot. His short name is Essio. With that notch right out of the center of his left ear. Very, very convenient. Or the center edge of his left ear. So he's an easy one to remember. H. Macy, you want to know if hyena territories are rather large? Within the clans, yes, and it makes sense that they would have to be so. Clans between 50 and 70 members, you've got a lot of ground to cover to get food and access to resources. So yes, they're relatively large. North Clan's territory, for those of you that are familiar with the Mara, unfortunately I don't have a map on me, but essentially the North Clan's territory stretches all the way on the northern side of Serena, right across west to the upper main road, which is back that way, and then all the way up to a campsite called Dorisha. So I do actually have a map, but it's not a map that I'm at liberty to share because it's been given to me courtesy of the Michigan State University, so I can't unfortunately share it. I haven't been given that clearance, but that's a rough idea. So there, in terms of size, that would be round about 5,000 hectares, so just under 5 times the size of Juma would be North Clan's territory. It smells so nice. Smell of the rain. What are you doing, Essio? Where's your brother? I haven't seen him in a while either. Oh, Kathy, this is where it gets complicated and where it's... Listen. Right, what are we talking about? Kathy wants to know how you tell the difference between a male and a female hyena. With youngsters, it is unbelievably tricky. With the older females, it's slightly easier because they've given birth a few times. So the end of their extended clitoris, or the pseudopenis that they have as their genital structure, has actually been split open. So it becomes very blunted at the end. And you can also see that, especially there. See that? You can actually see she's a lactating female. You can see her nipples. Whereas with younger individuals like this one who's sniffing around Tip and Remington, it's very tricky to tell because they even have pseudo-testes. So they even have fake testicles, basically. Now, all of that makes it difficult to tell the sex of a hyena, and people get it wrong all the time, including researchers. I have as well. So mistakes do get made, and it's only once a cub has had its sex determined 3 different times that it is given what is basically a confirmed sex, and even then sometimes it's wrong. With youngsters, Remington, let little Tip suckle. Just watch this for a second. I'll carry on the description in a moment. It's quite complex. Remington's trying to drag her away from the den. I don't know why. Here's Smooth Criminal. So with youngsters, the shape of the pseudopenis is tricky, but the males have a sort of a constriction towards the end, and then it opens up again. Well, Eric, what would happen if you removed hyenas from the ecosystem? You've removed an apex predator, so it's similar to if you removed lions, for example. Now, you could get a huge increase in the number of lions because there's a reduction in competition. That might be one example of what could occur. So you've got no lions, so you've got no hyenas, so there's no competition. A great increase in lions because hyenas are one of the biggest threats to lion cubs. You might have an overabundance of prey, although you could actually have an overabundance of prey. They do all the cleanup work, or most of the cleanup work, so you could have rotten carcasses spreading disease. Interestingly, something that you didn't think about, I just want to see what they're doing if we can see anything. Interestingly, what will happen, what's been seen with a drop in the number of spotted hyenas, because they get treated like vermin. They're not as attractive as the big cats, so on farms and so on, they are really treated as vermin. In places where there's been a loss of wild habitat, the hyenas have been shot out by farmers as part of the vermin control back in the day, and vulture numbers drop, and vulture numbers drop for an odd reason, because hyenas actually crunch up bones and leave shards behind. Vultures can't do that, but they do eat the shards for calcium intake, and without that calcium they can actually become calcium deficient, and the eggs that they lay are not strong enough to survive. Weird little random thing, what happens when you take spotted hyenas out of the ecosystem. But you've got to think of them as an apex predator. You've got to think of it, why are you trying to drag Tip out of the hole? Shame. Remington, what are you doing? This is weird. Oh, poor Tip. No match for Mom's strength. Now I want to go see what's happening, and now where to go, what to do. Hold on a sec, let me go forward. I think we'll be okay. Dragging her cub around. I think some of the mothers out there might sympathize. While we reposition to get ourselves a view through the window, let's go and join Taylor with the main players of the migration.
Isn't this beautiful? I don't know why I've just said hyenas. I mean to say wildebeest. These are most certainly not hyenas. Not even the other species of hyenas look anywhere near a wildebeest. But anyways, it's quite pretty, of course, with the pink haze that we have from the sun setting. And it's got quite dark and gloomy, although I suppose it's fairly similar to where Jamie is. But the clouds are fairly high. It's just a bit of a mizzle. It's not really raining down hard. But as soon as you start moving, of course, there's a slight little difference. But you can see it's kind of, there's actually big rain there on the escarpment. You can see it if you look there. Look at all those things. That's the rain. So I don't think it was raining on the escarpment, maybe just below it. Very interesting. Was it last night that we got that big... No, I think I'm imagining the night before, hey? Where just all of a sudden we had a big storm come through. It wasn't really much. It was more noise and clouds and things like that. And it did pour for a little bit and then it cleared up. But these wildebeest are the same ones that we saw a little bit earlier out in the open. They've now moved closer down towards the river's edge, but not in a very convenient spot for you and I. But they could still move. They're very far away from the river. They've still got quite a distance to go. And at the moment they are showing no signs at all with the intent to cross the river. Rush, I suppose it's why do people, when they're walking down on a pathway, why do they all walk in a line? I suppose it's efficient. They all follow one another. One is the leader. I think that role is fairly flexible, however. But yeah, so I don't know if there's any real reason behind it. Sometimes it's not just one lion, it'll be 3 or 4 different lions coming in from different places, all gathering together, and they'll all graze together and all decide if they're going to go and cross the river together as well. So, yeah, walk in a straight line, very good. I think the wildebeest are able to walk in a straighter line than I know some people. I know people that can't even queue properly. So well done, wildebeest, for showing us how it's done. I'm still looking along the river for lions. I thought we would have had something, but we're not winning just yet. So it's just there, but the wildebeest is still quite sort of a way up. I would like to see a crossing at night, though. I know Jamie has, which is interesting. Brown cat mama, wildebeest live for some time. I would imagine out here, I think they would get to maybe between 15 and 18 years or so. So they live for, a decent amount of time. But it's hard out here, like really, really hard. They've got the migration once a year, and then, of course, when they give birth on the southern plains of Tanzania in February, that's also absolute pandemonium with all the amounts of predators that come on around and try to eat the young wildebeest calves as they're born. Of course, they'll take in adults if there's an opportunity to. And it's just lots of lions and leopards and all sorts of things out here that want to, of course, eat the wildebeest. And the crocodiles. Goodness. Not to mention that most of the wildebeest, the thousands of wildebeest that do die during the migration, is not even because of any of the predators, it's because of the river itself. They drown. It's quite sad. So they've got a lot of obstacles that they need to face, in particular the wildebeest and zebra that do most of the crossings. But I suppose anywhere that it comes down to the river's edge takes a risk, whether it be the crocodiles or the lions lying and hiding in the croton thickets, which there are none of apparently this afternoon. I don't know where they all are. I'm also going to use a spotlight just now, which I haven't used for a very long time. I hope I know how to still work one. That could get interesting. But seeing as though it's this crepuscular period now, it's it's a little bit earlier because of the clouds. It's same effect. We could see things like jackals, maybe some bat-eared foxes. That's actually what I've been looking for. I checked an old den site. They are known to use the same sort of den sites over and over. So I went and checked, couldn't find the bat-eared foxes, sadly. They're not there, but Archie and I have seen them over the past couple of weeks, I think once. No, it was just the one time we saw them. So they're around, but they're shy little creatures. Very shy. But we're just going to keep hugging the river because sooner or later a cat's going to have to come out. Evening guinea fowl. I just hope one day I can just go like this, kip, 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 like how I used to call my chickens. But they don't listen, they don't respond, they don't come running towards me. Okay, but not too far away is Jamie, and if we switch our car off, we might even be able to hear those hyenas call.
Taylor was talking about calling her chickens, was what I heard. I don't know if I've got some kind of selective hearing today that I'm hearing strange things, or perhaps that is just what Taylor was chatting about. We've rolled up our side, or one of the side covers, so that we can see the hyenas a little bit better. While we were doing that, Paisley decided to come and visit us. You're right. Emma's provided me with some clarity on that. Using a chicken call to attract animals. Also a bizarre thought. But nevertheless, we'll move rapidly on from that and on to Remington. I think I know why she was dragging Tip where she dragged her to. I think it was just a more comfortable spot. So she wanted Tip near her. And Tip has been very homebound, den-bound in her time here at this particular den. See? Magic. Got one open side and one non-open side, and Paisley's gone because the researchers are here, so she's gone to go and be entertained by them. She's gone up ahead. Taylor and I are actually planning on spending the evening with the ladies from the Mara Hyena Research Project. Okay, sleepy hyenas. The rest of them have all gone to follow the research vehicle. I'm thinking about going to Waffles, but unfortunately it's going to get very dark very quickly. It's going to be very tricky with rain covers down. Conant, do female hyenas treat male and female cubs differently from the same litter? Not really. Essentially not, but the female cub will always be slightly bolder in her approach to certain things, so she will get better access to food. She will get the prime suckling spot up against mom, the other will have to spread out away from mom, and mom plays no real role in managing that conflict between her cubs. So although they do interact with each other, they essentially they're not managed. So she doesn't, if there's a fight, she doesn't intervene. She won't deliberately feed the male cub more because he hasn't got as much as the female. She just lets them sort their stuff out, and that's how it goes. But she won't favor a female over a male either. It just so happens that the female can fight for herself. I think I'm gonna have to move. Hold on. Rain's coming in. Let's go around. Pretty sure that hyena that's here that I said I recognize is Garfield. Hey, shh. I had to pull this in because Paisley tried to eat it. They took the entire back of Mila's canvas off completely. There we go. Remy a little bit jumpy. Cal 6! I got it! I think. Cal 6? Cal 6? I don't know. I'm sorry. What was the question again? I heard your name and I lost my train of thought completely because I was so busy focusing on hearing what it was. Do hyena clans ever interact with other hyena clans? There we go. Yes, Cal6. Hyena clan territories do overlap with other clan territories. That's what a territory does. No territory is a solid line in the sand that neither party crosses. The same applies for lions or leopards. There's always a degree of overlap. And yes, for example, North Clan overlaps with South Clan's territory, overlaps with the Happy Zebra Clan's territory, overlaps with the Olololos territory. And we were fortunate enough to witness a clan war, which I always think is a very dramatic name for a territorial battle. We were fortunate enough to witness a clan war where essentially the Happy Zebra and the North Clan met. And I've never experienced anything like that in my entire life. What was fascinating was how they called, and then they went dead silent and they charged at each other. It was astounding to watch. It was absolutely incredible. At one point we were surrounded by hyenas racing around, whooping, making noise. Oh, it was phenomenal. It was the most exciting hyena experience I've ever had. Oh, and you don't have to worry too much about injuries because they actually don't interact physically all that much in clan spats or territorial spats. Well, they might roll each other over a few times and then they carry on. I'm sure it's possible for them to be seriously injured, but there was no real physical contact in that particular war. It's just intimidation by numbers that won the day for North Clan, essentially. Hence Waffles being a battle commander. I'm so glad at least that people caught the irony in it. Waffles is a terrible name for a battle commander, but as it happens, that's what she is. MGN, after 4 months with North Clan, am I a clan member? I like to think so. With what position in the hierarchy I would be involved, or which that I would sit in, I don't know. I like to think I'm the matriarch, but I'm pretty sure Waffles would have something to say if I ever challenged her. Am I a clan member? No, sadly, probably not. But there have been times where just a little bit I've kind of felt like one, especially when we were racing to that clan war and I had hyenas on both sides of me. Someone's whooping, but can't hear it at the moment. When I had hyenas racing on both sides of me and I was racing with them, and then they would come and they would join and they'd look up at me and then carry on running. I guess those moments, I knew I wasn't part of the clan, but it kind of felt like I was part of something. No, I'm not a clan member. We've already been over what name I would have if I were a clan member, and I'm not going down that route again, thank you very much. I like to think I'd be a high-ranking individual. I really feel that this afternoon I need to have my hearing checked. Apparently, I can send you across to Taylor with her bin chicken.
I would really like to see Jamie's initiation process in order to get into the North Clan. I think it would be quite entertaining. But right, first things first, we're going to play a game. Everybody ready for the game? We are going to try and come up with hilarious and suitable collective nouns to describe a flock of, well, formerly known as the African sacred ibis, or as, like I said, I call them the bin chicken. So, hashtag Safari Live, let's hear what you have. I can't think of one just yet. That's why I'm making you all think for me, because Archie, have you come up with one yet? Archie was the one who actually initiated this and said, what is the collective noun for a group of these birds? And I said, I haven't got a clue. But the joy is, of course, that you can just make up whatever you like, which is awesome. But anyways, even though to you and I they just might be ibises, they are well respected in Egypt. And there was an Egyptian pharaoh by the name of Amasis, and well, he loved these birds in particular. So in Egypt, it wasn't, an uncommon thing to actually feed all of these ibises, and you'll probably find that they formed gatherings like this, although they are fairly social birds. And he actually said that anybody that was seen mistreating an African sacred ibis received the death penalty. How's that for extreme? Right? Pretty crazy. Anyways, unfortunately, there aren't any African sacred ibises, from my understanding, left in Egypt. I think they occur just south of Egypt and then widespread right throughout Africa. I mean, we see them in South Africa. You see them all over. I like them, though. I quite enjoy the ibis birds. And one of the most bizarre things I've seen them doing, which I suppose isn't so bizarre, but for a bird with such a long beak like that, you wouldn't think that it ate flesh. But it indeed does feed on all the rotting carcasses that wash up on the banks of the Mara River. And that's where the name bin chicken, I suppose, comes from, is because you see them at abattoirs just lingering around. So they feed on a variety of different things. Kruger guy, you've suggested a worship of African sacred ibises. That's, I suppose, it's suitable, especially if you're from Egypt. Or now they're all taking off. Oh, this could be quite exciting, because I think they're going to be sharing the perch of one of my other favorite birds. They're flying off to a tree just to the left. And I think there might be some guinea fowl up there already, although if there aren't, the guinea fowl are on their way. The ones that I sort of kipped at earlier. Oh, no. No, it's just got a tree full of African sacred ibises. Anyways, let's go back to South Africa to watch the last of the light.
There is the sun going down behind the Drakensberg Mountains, everybody. Let us just be quiet for a second and have a listen. Down. Now, you may have heard that there is not a great deal to listen to at the moment. We are, of course, just coming into the first parts of the spring. Look at those colours. The one thing you might be able to hear now is the call of the red-crested korhaan. And I did promise you that we would go back to the Nkuhuma Pride, and so it is that I have returned to the world's flattest cats. There they are. They have moved slightly. It's like the carpet has shifted. Almost imperceptibly, inch by inch, it has moved exactly 8 feet towards us from whence it was before. But how that happened with this level of slumber, I cannot tell you. There was a leopard sawing quite close to Galago Pan. That's quite close to camp. Tristan, of course, is being on nest duty at the moment, and so he heard it calling. And so we raced off to have a look there, and then it called again, and then it called again, and it seemed to be moving north through an impossibly thick block. So because I promised to come back to the lions, I have come back to the lions. It sounds like a baboon calling. Here are the Nkuhuma Pride. For those of you who don't know, the Nkuhuma Pride consists of 5 lionesses and 6 youngsters way in the distance. The youngest of which, I think, is about 2 years old now. All 11 members, I think, are here. Let us count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Don't touch that dial. I'm going to let you answer that question for yourself. Shall we zoom out, Seb? Does it look, don't touch that dial, like any of this lot of vaguely interested in guarding their fellows? No. The answer is they do not keep lookout. They do not need to. Everything else out here, bar elephants, are terrified of lions. And so quite unlike a leopard, which must be very careful when it sleeps, because lots of things could come across it and do it harm. Hyenas, lions, other leopards, buffalo, wild dogs. That's quite sweet. Anything that comes across this carpet of lions is going to turn around and go the other way if it's got half a brain. Take care, I think they swap. I don't think that there is a sort of preference for whom they cuddle. Not in my experience, anyway. I mean, I will be the first to admit that I'm not the best at identifying individuals, so to say whether Sally was always cuddling with Sarah in this particular pride of lions, I think would be difficult. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, something's coming this way. This lion's got a limp. I watched it the other day. Is that the young male? See, there's something wrong with his right front foot. Look at this. Who's told them? Who has told them of this? Suddenly they all know to get up and look. I don't want to move. Did you see how that happened entirely spontaneously? There must have been some form of communication that took place there. It wasn't just the movement of the lion. It's something that they could eat. We did see a duiker running through here. That would be like trying to feed 10 people with a cocktail olive. They're forming, they're already fanning out into ambush. How cool is this? Yes, wakey, wakey indeed, Kruger guy. One now going to the back. One of the older lionesses, more experienced. Three or four of the more lazy ones dropping down to go to sleep again. And yes, everyone going to sleep now. How exhausting. I'm just going to move forward because the one behind is still moving around to the back. And they may be, it may be, that they have set up this ambush. It wasn't the young male in front, by the way. The young male's right here with us. It may be that they've set up an ambush, and this is where the ambush is going to wait. Now, I've parked very close to them. One of them is now going to the loo, while it looks towards whatever it is that they've seen through the bushes here. That's wonderful. It's always nice to multitask, I feel. The ability to multitask is very important. Then if you go across to the one there, yeah, that one in the middle, standing and looking, she's watching towards where the sort of, what would we call the one that's going around the back? We'd call that the scout? No. We'll call her the chaser. She's watching towards the chaser. And in theory, what will happen here is that the chaser, that's an impala, I can hear the impala alarming. The chaser would chase them towards here, straight into the teeth of the lions. They're all looking now towards the alarm call of the impala. Ideally, what they would have wanted was, I suspect, another chaser going around the other way. So there are definitely some lions there that have spotted the chaser. Now that doesn't mean, and not lions, impala that have spotted the chaser, that doesn't mean that the hunt is off. Because the chaser will often be seen and then chase towards where this lot are waiting. Can you see the lioness? Yeah, so she hasn't got behind them. She's still in front of them. She's still between the pride and the impala. I don't think that's what they saw initially. There's something else in here. You might just be able to hear a few vehicles going by as well. There's a quite astonishing amount of building going on at one of these camps. Sounds like a highway. That's horrific. Ideally that should happen outside of game drive time. Sorry about that, everybody. They need what-proof vests? Fang-proof vests, yes, they certainly do. All animals need fang-proof vests out here, MGN. Everyone's still waiting, still looking into the bush. Isn't it lovely, this picture of all of them with their black ear tips? That's so cool. So the chaser has definitely gone between the pride and those impala. She wasn't interested in the impala. She's carried on towards the north. There's something in this bush that she's going to try and chase towards the lions that are waiting here. Now, ultimately patient, these cats. It's easy to be ultimately patient when you are only thinking about sleep and food. Wasn't it amazing to watch how they all suddenly stood up? They all knew what was going on. Obviously there's no verbal communication whatsoever. But something changed. How do they decide who goes round the other side there? Who's going to be the chaser? Is it always the same one that's the chaser? I don't know. Linda Poley, yes indeed. An astounding amount of suspense here. You wouldn't want to stop the suspense. Alrighty, while the suspense builds, we're going to relieve the suspense by going across to the Maasai Mara, Jamie Patterson and the North Clan of Hyena.
You know, I think that our hyena might be building suspense as well, although less so the ones that we can actually see. The rest of them are behind us. But I think in this weather they're actually going to start hunting. They love the confusion that the rain causes. It's one of the best weathers for all animals to hunt in, but hyenas enjoy it just as much as the big cats do. If we can have a look at the hyena off to the left of this little one, at Remington, I want to show you something really clear. The one lying down. No, the one lying down. There we go. Thank you. Look at her shoulder and look at the question mark. Or I suppose you could think of it as a bass clef if you're musical. Now she's put her head down, it doesn't look so clear, but to me, that mark on her shoulder is the easiest way to identify her. It looks, when she stands up and when her head's straight, it looks like a question mark. That little one that came running up to the left of her is Sloth Bear. Our little pocket rocket all grown up. He's now to the left, to there. There we go. It doesn't matter if the researchers are here. No, he's gone behind the car. Oh, he's coming back out. No, he's going behind the car. Oh, it is starting to get really dark here. The clouds have moved in. Usually at this point we would still be able to enjoy it in full color, but unfortunately we've just had to quickly switch it to infrared just so that we can see things clearly. There we go. Good girl. Oh, we're actually sharing our space at the moment with the researchers, so they will be here. We make sure that we don't get in their way. So obviously we don't want to be a pest, and they've given us so much information that we're really grateful for all of it. But I'm going to move slightly so you can see how the cubs go and move around their vehicle. Oh, Ferg's here, by the way. Waffles' son is here. I saw him earlier. Grown goes Mila. There we go. Can have a look at what the cubs do and what they get up to. It's the same thing they do to our vehicles. Let's have a look at the vehicle. Sorry, James. At the cubs around the vehicle. I know there's lights on there. There we go. And they wonder. They don't know it that they're live. I should probably have sent them a message first. There's Tip. And there's Sloth Bear. Oh no, that's not Sloth Bear. Sorry. Nonsense. Talking nonsense. Sniffing around the front of the vehicle. Now, usually I wouldn't encourage something like this, and I want to just be very clear about how this whole process works. So, the hyena cubs here are researched, along with all the rest of them. They are bold enough to approach the vehicle, and they are bold enough to interact with the vehicle. That is something we do not encourage. Never ever encourage a wild animal to approach your car. It is dangerous. But with hyena cubs, it's something that they grow out of, and it's almost impossible to stop them from doing it without instilling a fear of vehicles, which is the exact opposite of what we want. So they don't jump in, they don't climb through the window or anything like that. All things that could do them injury on the vehicle are removed. Now, you know, most of our regular viewers know how hyena cubs interact with us, and then they grow out of it. They're bored with the researchers now, they're coming to say hello to us. Hello, guys. If I were to try and stop them from doing what they do, I would go absolutely mental. All I've done is just remove anything that could do them harm. So the lights are gone. Quick, let's go over to James.
We've got a lot of movement here suddenly. They've spotted something else coming through the bush. One of the lions has gone around the back of our car. Either this bunch in front is distracting us from the fact that the lion behind us is about to hunt Seb, or they're on to something else. In fact, the one now behind us is parallel, moving in the same direction that these ones are looking. Quite possibly what they're doing is looking at the impala that we heard initially. Can you see her anywhere, Seb? I did see her. I cannot see what they're looking at through the front of these bushes here. There There's definitely something. All of them have given up looking where the chasing lioness went. Now there's another chase lioness gone the other way. I can't tell you what's happening because I just don't know what's through the bush here. There seems to be somebody coming this way. I'm just going to have to tell them to. No, I think it's from another reserve. They're not allowed here, which is great. Look at their muscles bunched. But if she stays standing up like that, I think she'll be seen. See how focused they are? They've given up entirely on whatever was in the bush in front of them. Turned 90 degrees. Okay, there, quickly. There's the other lioness. Yeah, I think let's go for it, Emma. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's go for an unscheduled. Let's see what happens. Hello everybody who's just joined us. We're sitting here at Juma Private Game Reserve in the western parts of the Kruger National Park with a pride of lions called the Nkahuma Pride. That is one lioness, and they've just set an ambush for something or other that I cannot see. I've got 10 lions sitting next to me on the right hand side. That is the 11th lioness. She seems to be trying to flank something in front of us, perhaps a herd of impala. We did hear some impala alarm calling a little bit earlier, and the ones next to me are now almost as tense as she is. Just let's stay on that one, I think. Please send us any questions or comments that you'd like to. We'd like to hear from you. But this is very, very interesting stuff. Isn't this amazing? Look at the concentration. Watch carefully how she moves her feet. 1 foot into the place that the foot before it has gone. I hope I've explained that carefully enough to you. But she's very careful not to crunch any vegetation under her soft pads. Now, Mila, the rest of the pride is next to me, less than 2 meters away. There are 10 lions sitting no more than, or maybe a bit more, 3 meters or so, 10 feet from where I'm sitting now. And they're waiting to see if she can flank whatever this is and then chase the prey into the waiting ambush. Right, hello everybody. Over here is the rest of the pride, and they're all waiting very patiently. I'm sorry, there are actually 9 of them, because another lioness has gone around the other way to flank something else that they saw earlier. But they're all much more interested. Here we go. See how they keep moving? It's impala. I can hear them alarm calling. We'll just see if they're running. Just see if they run towards us. They might. I don't think she managed to get close enough to chase them. It's just a little bit too light still for them. They're still looking. I don't know if you heard that. That's the impala alarm calling. Normally it means the hunt is foiled. I think perhaps this hunt has been foiled. They're in some very thick bush, you see, and it's going to become increasingly difficult for prey animals like impala to see what's going on. They'll be trying to head to more open areas as darkness falls. But you may just be able to hear the light sounds of snorting from impala. They're not going to run this way. I don't think they've spotted the flanking maneuver. So what she would have tried to do, that flanking lioness, is get around the back of the herd scatter them and chase them into this bunch. But she's definitely been seen, and you can see, well, a yawn of frustration from the Nkuhuma pride here. Let's just wait for one more minute and see if something doesn't happen, because the one at the front is looking pretty interested still. But I suspect that the flanking maneuver has been outfoxed by the wily impala. Lisa, they're all hunting now, and the youngest members of this pride are about 2 years old. So they will all be hunting by this stage. They will start contributing to a hunt probably around 18 months old, but they will butcher more hunts than they will help. More alarm calling, and the lions will now probably start to get up and move. But I think that this particular hunt has now reached its end, I'm afraid. All right, thank you very much for joining us. It's been lovely to have you with us. I'm sorry it didn't result in something slightly more exciting. That's the way it goes out here, broadcasting live wildlife. If you want to watch the rest of the drive, you can just go to YouTube and type in Safari Live and you'll find us. We've got 2 people out here in Juma and another 3 out in the Maasai Mara of Kenya. See you soon. Ah, hooray. Now the Vov has managed to find himself a spotted cat. I think it's Tingana.
Thank you, Tristan, and all those who gave us the updates. We have found the Duke of Juma, just walking in the road. He's just up ahead of us here on the right-hand side. Now that is what we call a last-minute leopard. As he gives us a little bit of a territorial spray. See if we can get up alongside of him. He's walking directly north now towards Mvubu. He might, well, Mvubu is that way, he might cut through to Vuyatela Pan. We're not sure. Let's have a look. What are your plans, Mr. Tingana? I think he's going to go toward Vuyatela. That's going to be interesting. Always fun when he goes that way because it's quite a busy little pathway. Here he goes through the bushes there on our right hand side. What a beautiful man he is indeed. 2 evenings in a row I'm going to close with Tingana. How fantastic. Gorgeous. Well, let me see if I can get ahead of him here. Got another minute and a half left. Yeah, well, Tingana likes to show himself. We were hoping to find Tundi on our wanderings. We had some tracks of her coming back in from Torchwood, but they were from the rain the other day. So I doubt that they're that fresh. Just 2 days or so. We're going to get him walking right past us. Yeah, very nice game path just in front of Gallagher Lodge. If you were staying in this room here at Gallagher, you would be seeing a leopard walking in front of you in a moment. Here he comes. 40 meters, 30 meters from the room. Such a beautiful gentleman. He is going to be heading directly towards Vuyatela watering hole now. Just off to our left. Oh, here we go. Are you going to call for us, boy? I believe he was calling around the corner. That's how everybody has alerted us to his presence. So that scent mark that he leaves, it's not going to last. It's going to last for about 2 weeks or so, but the call, as we've spoken about, gives away his presence immediately, which is exactly the purpose. And maybe he is still doing his territorial movements, and maybe he wants to catch a little bit of meat just around the corner. Well, We're going to watch him meander along this pathway. There's a tree just off to the left that him and Hyena had a fantastic little boxing match 2 weeks ago. And it's been a very interesting afternoon. Sorry for us losing signal for a brief period on Torchwood this afternoon. It was nice to explore. James has had fun with the lions. Thanks to Taylor and to Jamie up in the Mara for providing what seems to be some amazing content. It has been a very fantastic evening, nice and warm with elephants. And thanks to all of you for your feedback, questions and comments. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Have a beautiful evening. Good night.